Everyone thought the story ended when she kicked him out, but men like him don't forget humiliation. And this morning, his Lamborghini was parked right outside her door. Chapter 1. The dive bar on 5th and Carmine smelled like spilled beer and broken dreams. Raven Cole had worked at Finnegan's for 3 years, long enough to know trouble when it walked through the door. Tonight, Trouble wore a $5,000 suit. She noticed him the moment he entered. Impossible not to. 6'3" of dark Mediterranean features, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, and eyes like black ice that swept the room with predatory assessment. His presence shifted the atmosphere. Conversations died. Men straightened in their seats. Everyone knew everyone but her. Raven balanced 4 pints of Guinness on her tray, weaving through the Friday night crowd. Finnegan's catered to blue-collar workers, college students, and tourists who wandered off the beaten path. This man didn't fit. His tailored suit probably cost more than she made in 6 months. The 2 mountains of muscle flanking him, one with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, the other built like a refrigerator, screamed private security, or worse. Raven. Sienna hissed from behind the bar, her blue eyes wide with panic. That's I know. Another Wall Street, _ slumming it. Raven rolled her eyes, delivering the beers to table 7. Probably thinks he's edgy drinking with us peasants. No, you don't understand. But Raven was already moving toward the back corner booth where the stranger had settled with his guards. Professional smile in place, she approached with her notepad ready. Up close, he was even more devastating and more dangerous. A thin scar traced his jawline. His hands resting on the table bore the scars of violence. Fighter's hands. Evening, gentlemen. What can I get you? The suited man didn't look at her. His attention remained fixed on the bar where her manager, Danny Finnegan, was wiping down glasses with shaking hands. The 2 guards ordered Macallan 25, neat, expensive, pretentious. The boss still didn't acknowledge her. Raven's jaw tightened. She'd dealt with entitled pricks before, men who thought money bought them the right to ignore service workers. Sir, if you're not ordering, I'll need to. Finnegan. His voice cut through the bar noise like a knife. Deep, accented with Italian inflection, and cold as a grave. You're 3 weeks late. Danny dropped the glass he'd been holding. It shattered on the floor. Mr. Salvatore, I can explain. Salvatore. The name triggered something in the back of Raven's mind, but she pushed it aside. She watched as the Salvatore leaned back in the booth, his movements liquid and controlled. A predator relaxed because he knew nothing here could threaten him. I don't need explanations. I need my money. By Monday, I swear. You swore last month. Salvatore's tone never changed, never rose, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I'm losing patience, Danny. One of the guards, Scarface, stood and moved toward the bar. Danny stumbled backward, pale as milk. Sienna pressed herself against the beer taps, frozen. That's when Raven's temper snapped. She'd grown up watching her father get pushed around by men who thought power gave them permission to terrorize. Watched him break under the weight of debts and threats until he'd put a gun in his mouth when she was 16. She'd sworn then, never again, not while she was breathing. Hey! Raven stepped between Scarface and the bar, her 5'6" frame dwarfed by his bulk, but her voice steady. Back off. The entire bar went silent. Scarface looked down at her like she was an annoying insect. Behind her, she heard Sienna whimper. The guard reached past her, dismissive. Raven moved. 3 years of Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu made her fast. She caught his wrist, twisted, and used his momentum to send him stumbling into a bar stool. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't professional, but it got his attention. I said back off. She turned to face the booth, adrenaline singing through her veins. I don't care who you are or what Danny owes you. You don't come into this bar and threaten people. You want to have a business discussion? Schedule an appointment like a civilized human being. Otherwise, she jerked her thumb toward the door. Get out. The silence was absolute. Salvatore looked at her for the first time. Really looked at her. Those black eyes traveled from her scuffed combat boots up her jean legs past her Finnegan's tank top to her face. She had a smudge of bar sauce on her cheek, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. Zero makeup. She knew exactly what she looked like. Nobody special. But the way he looked at her made her feel naked. "You're fired," Danny gasped from behind the bar. "You can't fire her for—" Sienna started. "She just assaulted Marco Benedetti." Danny's voice climbed to hysteria. "Do you have any idea, Marco?" Salvatore's single word silenced everyone. He stood slowly, unfolding from the booth with lethal grace. He was bigger standing, broader through the shoulders, and when he moved toward Raven, every instinct screamed at her to run. She held her ground. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and leather, and something darker, close enough to see the flecks of gold in those depthless eyes. Up close, he was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a blade or a storm. "What's your name?" His voice dropped lower, intimate, meant only for her. "Raven." She lifted her chin. "Raven Cole. And I meant what I said. Leave." Something flickered across his face. Surprise. Amusement. It vanished too quickly to identify. He reached up slowly, giving her time to flinch. She didn't, and his thumb brushed her cheek. When he pulled back, red sauce stained his skin. "Marinara," he murmured, studying it. "Homemade." "What? The sauce on your face?" Those eyes locked onto hers. "Did you make it?" The absurdity of the question, given the circumstances, nearly made her laugh. "Yes, from my grandmother's recipe." "Why?" "Because," he leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "I'm going to enjoy ruining you, Raven Cole." He stepped back, buttoning his suit jacket with one hand. Marco and the other guard immediately flanked him. As they moved toward the door, Salvatore paused, looking back over his shoulder. "Monday, Danny, don't make me come back." Then they were gone, disappearing into the night like smoke. Raven's knees almost gave out. Sienna rushed over, gripping her arm. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what you just did?" Kicked out some but her voice shook. That was Dante Salvatore. Danny had gone from pale to gray. The Dante Salvatore? He owns half of Lower Manhattan. His family controls the Italian territories from here to Boston. And you? He pointed at her with a trembling finger. "You just assaulted his consigliere and threw him out of my bar." The name finally clicked. Salvatore. The Salvatore crime family. She'd heard rumors, seen news reports carefully worded to avoid libel. One of the 5 families that ran New York's underworld with iron fists and rivers of blood. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Well, now you do." Danny slumped against the bar. "We're all dead. We're all said. Raven's phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered, "Hello. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Dante Salvatore's voice poured through the speaker like dark honey. "Car will be waiting outside your apartment. 12 Bleecker Street, apartment 3B. Be ready." "How do you know where I—" "You belong to me now, Raven. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." "I belong to no one. You arrogant." 9 a.m. "Don't keep me waiting." The line went dead. Outside, in the back seat of a black Escalade, Dante Salvatore smiled for the first time in months. Marco rubbed his bruised wrist, scowling at his boss through the rearview mirror. "You want me to handle her, boss? Send a message?" "No." Dante's smile widened, predatory and pleased. "I'll handle her myself." He'd gone to Finnegan's to collect a debt and remind Danny who owned him. He'd left with something far more valuable, an obsession. The little waitress who didn't know fear, who fought his trained enforcer without hesitation, who told him to get out like he was any other customer. She'd looked at him and seen just a man. Not a monster, not a king, a man. It had been years since anyone looked at him that way. "Find out everything," he told Marco. "Family, friends, debts, secrets. I want to know what she dreams about. Boss, she's nobody. A waitress. She's mine." The words came out harder than he'd intended. And when I decide something is mine, Marco, what happens? Marco sighed. You keep it. Exactly. Dante looked out the window at the passing city, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. Tomorrow I'll make her understand. One way or another, Ravencole is coming home with me. The Lamborghini was already waiting in his garage. Midnight blue, her favorite color. He'd already had someone pull her social media profiles. By morning, it would be parked outside her building. Keys in the ignition, a clear message. Run if you want. I'll always catch you. And when he did, he'd never let go. Chapter 2. Caged. Raven didn't sleep. She spent the night researching Dante Salvatore on her laptop, falling down a rabbit hole of criminal enterprise disguised as legitimate business. Salvatore Holdings owned restaurants, construction companies, waste management, shipping, all fronts, according to the conspiracy forums. All clean, according to tax records. The man himself was a ghost. No mug shots, no indictments, just blurry photographs from charity galas where he stood in $15,000 tuxedos next to politicians and celebrities. The captions always mentioned his business acumen and philanthropic efforts. Never the bodies. But Raven found those too if she dug deep enough. Rival gang members who'd disappeared, witnesses who'd recanted testimony, a federal prosecutor who'd committed suicide right before trial. All connected, however loosely, to the Salvatore family. At 8:47 a.m. Sienna called. Please tell me you're not still in the city, her friend begged. Where else would I be? Raven peered through her third-floor window at the street below. Bleecker was busy with Saturday morning traffic, dog walkers, and students stumbling back from all-nighters. Normal, safe, except for the midnight blue Lamborghini Aventador parked directly in front of her building, gleaming in the morning sun like a jewel. Understand what? What is it? He's in a car. A Lamborghini. Raven's mouth went dry. Oh honey, listen to me. You need to leave right now. Pack a bag and catch the next bus to where? Raven laughed bitterly. You think he doesn't know about you? About my sister in Boston? He knows where I live, Sienna. He knows everything by now. A knock on the door made her jump. I have to go. Raven. Don't. She ended the call. Through the peephole, she saw Marco, the guard she'd thrown last night, standing in her hallway looking annoyed. He knocked again, harder. Miss Cole, Mr. Salvatore is waiting. Tell Mr. Salvatore he can wait until hell freezes over. Silence. Then he said you'd say that. He also said to tell you he's currently having breakfast with your sister at Boston General Hospital, room 412. Raven's blood turned to ice. Her sister Lily, 23 years old, fighting leukemia, recovering from her third round of chemo in a hospital room 3 hours away. Vulnerable, helpless. She ripped open the door. If he touches her. He's brought her flowers. Marco's expression was unreadable. And paid her medical bills, all of them, including the experimental treatment her insurance denied. What also established a trust fund for her continued care. He checked his watch. Mr. Salvatore is very generous to those who cooperate and very thorough with those who don't. Your choice, Miss Cole. Raven wanted to scream, to fight, to run. But she'd learned young that sometimes the only choice was which cage to enter. At least this one came with her sister's survival. Give me 5 minutes. She changed into jeans and a black leather jacket, pulled her hair into a ponytail, and grabbed her phone. No bag. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of thinking she was staying. When she emerged, Marco escorted her downstairs with a hand hovering near his concealed weapon. The Lamborghini's scissor door was already open. Dante Salvatore sat in the driver's seat, sunglasses hiding his eyes, dressed casually in black jeans, and a gray Henley that showed off arms corded with muscle. Somehow he looked even more dangerous, relaxed. Get in. Where's my sister? Safe. I gave her a tablet loaded with books and told her you'd call later. He patted the passenger seat. In Raven, I don't like repeating myself. She slid into the car, the leather seat molding to her body like a lover's touch. The door closed with a solid thunk, sealing her in. Dante removed his sunglasses, and those black eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. You look tired. Funny thing about being threatened by criminals kills the ability to sleep. His mouth quirked. I didn't threaten you. I made you an offer by leveraging my sick sister. Very honorable. I never claimed to be honorable. He started the engine. It roared to life with a growl that vibrated through her bones. But I am practical. You have something I want. I have the resources to ensure your sister survives. Mutually beneficial arrangement. And what exactly do I have that you want? He pulled into traffic with the ease of someone who knew every car would move out of his way. And they did. We'll discuss that at home. I have a home. You drove me away from it. No, you have an apartment with bars on the windows and a broken lock, you Jimmy with a credit card. He navigated through the city streets like he owned them, because he probably did. You work 60-hour weeks at a bar that barely pays minimum wage. You fight in underground MMA matches every other Thursday at a warehouse in Red Hook, pocketing $2,000 per fight if you win. You send 70% of your income to Boston General. You eat ramen and eggs 6 days a week. You haven't bought new clothes in 8 months. Raven's hands clenched into fists. You have no right. I have every right. You became my business the moment you put your hands on my consigliere. He glanced at her, and something hot flashed in his eyes. Though I'll admit, watching you take down Marco was the most entertainment I've had in years. Where'd you learn to fight? None of your business. Everything about you is my business now. They were leaving Manhattan, crossing the bridge toward New Jersey. You're right-handed, but favor your left leg for kicks. Your stance is Krav Maga, but you've got ground game from BJJ. You're faster than you look, and you don't hesitate. That's rare, especially in women. Sexist pig. Factual observation. He smiled, and it transformed his face from coldly beautiful to devastatingly gorgeous. Most people, men included, freeze when violence comes. You ran toward it. Why? Because I watched my father die from running away. She didn't say, I don't like bullies. Neither do I. Which is why last night's situation was a test. That made her look at him. What? Danny Finnegan's been skimming from my businesses for 2 years. Small amounts. Thought I wouldn't notice. Dante's voice went flat, emotionless. I went there to see if any of his employees would warn him. Show loyalty. You were the only one who stepped up. So, you weren't actually going to hurt him? Oh, I'm definitely going to hurt him. But I respect loyalty, and I reward courage. He turned onto a private road lined with security gates. Also, Marco did harass your coworker, Sienna, right? Blonde? Nervous. Undergraduate degree from NYU. He made inappropriate comments about her body. That was real. Raven's mind raced. So, you were testing your own man and found him wanting. He's been demoted. You. However, they passed through a gate that opened automatically. You just earned yourself a job. The house beyond the gates wasn't a house. It was a compound, a modern masterpiece of glass and steel, 3 stories of architectural genius nestled in acres of manicured grounds. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Cameras tracked their approach. This is insane. This is home. He parked in a garage that held 9 other vehicles, each worth more than most people's houses. Your room is on the 2nd floor, East Wing. Marco will show you. You'll have a phone, computer, anything you need. You can call your sister anytime. My room? Raven's voice rose. I'm not staying here. Dante cut the engine and turned to face her fully. In the enclosed space, his presence was overwhelming. Let me be very clear. You have 2 options. Option 1, you stay here under my protection and work for me. You'll be safe. Your sister will be cared for, and you'll want for nothing. Option 2. His hand shot out, gripping her chin gently but firmly, tilting her face toward his. I let you walk out that gate. Within an hour, Vincent Moretti's men will grab you off the street. They'll use you to get to me. They'll hurt you in ways that will make you beg for death. Then they'll kill your sister just to make a point. Her breath caught. This close. She could see the darker ring around his irises, the faint stubble on his jaw. Why would they? Because everyone who saw you throw out Dante Salvatore and live is now talking about it. You humiliated me in front of witnesses. In my world, that makes you either incredibly important to me. His thumb brushed her lower lip. Or incredibly stupid. Either way, you're now a target. The only safe place for you is here with me. You did this. Fury burned through her. You made me a target. No, Bella. You made yourself a target the moment you decided to be brave. He released her chin but didn't move back. I'm just the one offering you a cage with better amenities. Now, are you going to keep fighting me? Or are you going to be smart? Raven wanted to claw his eyes out, but she thought of Lily, of the medical bills that would have bankrupted them both, of the experimental treatment that might actually save her sister's life. She thought of Vincent Moretti. She'd researched him, too. Found the bodies, the brutality. What kind of work? Nothing illegal. He smiled at her skeptical look. Much. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't afraid of me. Someone who sees through the undersurface, or you'll be my assistant. I don't have any qualifications for. You threw out a mafia boss for harassing your coworkers. You're more qualified than my entire security team. He opened his door. Come. Let me show you your cage. As they walked through the house, Raven catalogued every exit, every window, every weakness. The place was a fortress, but no fortress was impregnable. The staff they passed, a housekeeper, a chef, 2 more guards, all nodded respectfully to Dante and looked at her with undisguised curiosity. Her room was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in silk sheets. The attached bathroom was marble and gold. The walk-in closet was already filled with clothes in her exact size. How? I'm thorough. Dante leaned against the doorframe, watching her explore. Dinner is at 8. Dress code is whatever makes you comfortable. I'll have Marco brief you on security protocols tomorrow. And if I try to leave, then I'll bring you back. Simple. Matter of fact, terrifying every time. Until you understand that fighting me is pointless. You're mine now, Raven. The sooner you accept it, the easier this will be. I'll never be yours. He pushed off the door frame and crossed to her in 3 long strides. Suddenly, she was backed against the window, his hands bracketing her head, his body radiating heat. Never is a long time, Bella, and I'm a very patient man. I hate you. Good. Hate is passion. Passion I can work with. His eyes dropped to her lips. Indifference would be worse. For a terrifying moment, she thought he'd kiss her. Worst part of her wanted him, too. But he just smiled, dark, knowing, predatory, and stepped back. Welcome home, Raven Cole. Then he was gone, leaving her alone in her golden cage with the horrible realization that the most dangerous thing in this compound wasn't the armed guards or the security system, was the man who'd built it and the way her traitorous body responded to his touch. Chapter 3. Dangerous Games. Raven didn't go down for dinner. She spent the day testing her prison. The windows didn't open more than 4 inches. Safety feature or security measure. Take your pick. The door had no lock on her side. She counted 12 cameras on the grounds, probably more she couldn't see. The guards changed shifts every 6 hours. The perimeter fence was 12 feet, topped with decorative spikes that were anything but decorative. At 8:15 p.m. a soft knock preceded Marco entering with a covered tray. Mr. Salvatore thought you might prefer to eat in your room. He set the tray on the desk. He also said to tell you sulking is unbecoming. Tell Mr. Salvatore he can. He's standing right behind me. Dante's voice cut in. Marco quickly made himself scarce. Dante entered like he owned the space, which technically he did. He changed into black slacks and a white dress shirt rolled to his elbows. The casualness somehow made him more dangerous. In his hand, he held a tablet. You've been watching the security feeds. He held up the tablet, showing her own face from multiple angles, counting guards, timing patrols, measuring distances. You're planning an escape. No point denying it. Can you blame me? No, I'd do the same. He set the tablet down and uncovered her dinner. Lasagna, homemade by the smell, garlic bread, and a side salad. But I'd make one critical error that you're about to make, which is thinking I'm the danger you need to escape from. He pulled out his phone, swiped, and turned the screen toward her. This photo was taken 6 hours ago, 2 blocks from your old apartment. The image showed 3 men standing beside a black Mercedes. She recognized the type. Enforcers, muscle, the kind of men who broke bones for a living. One was staring directly at the camera, his face a map of violence. Vincent Moretti's crew, Dante continued. They've had your building under surveillance since this morning. The only reason they haven't grabbed Sienna for information is because I have 2 of my men watching her. When she leaves for her shift at Finnegan's, they'll follow her. Keep her safe. Raven's appetite vanished. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand the reality of your situation. He pocketed the phone. You're not my prisoner, Raven. You're under my protection. There's a difference. Really? Because I'm not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to die. He pulled out the desk chair, spun it around, and straddled the chair backward, all casual and familiar. His arms draped over the back. Let me break this down for you. Moretti and I have been locked in a 3-year war. Territory disputes, cutthroat business rivalries, and simmering old resentments fuel the conflict. His old man took out my uncle. I, in turn, eliminated his cousin. It's a vicious cycle, a blood feud, you get the picture? Blood for blood, plain and simple. What the hell does this have to do with me? Everything. Those dark eyes of his locked onto her. In our world, women who are connected to powerful men become pawns, leverage to be exploited. Wives, daughters, girlfriends, they all become targets. Moretti has been searching for a chink in my armor for months. Then you waltz in, publicly humiliate me, and walk away breathing. What kind of message do you think that sends him? Understanding, cold and horrifying, dawned on her. That I matter to you, exactly, whether it's the truth or not, and we'll definitely be exploring that later. He believes it, and that instantly makes you valuable. He'll try to snatch you, manipulate you, use you, and when he's done squeezing you dry for information, he'll send me pieces of you in boxes. Raven's hands began to tremble. She gripped the edge of the desk for support. You're telling me I'm bait. I'm telling you that you've stumbled into a game you didn't even know existed. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. But here's the thing, Bella. I never lose. So, if you're smart, you'll stop plotting your escape and start figuring out how to survive. Because, whether you like it or not, you're now a part of this. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I. Something flickered across his face. A shadow of regret. Impossible. But I saw you fight for your friends, and I made a choice. I could have easily let Moretti snatch you. I could have sat back and watched from a safe distance while he broke you. Instead, I brought you here into my home under my protection. That has to mean something. It means I'm your property. It means you're mine to protect. He stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the polished hardwood floor. There's a difference, though. Oh, I don't expect you to understand it just yet. Now eat. You haven't had a decent meal since yesterday, and you're going to need your strength. For what? His smile was all predator. Training starts tomorrow. If you're going to be a player in my world, you need to know how to survive in it. Marco will teach you weapons. I'll teach you everything else. He was almost to the door when she finally spoke. Why? Dante paused, his back still to her. Why? What? Why do you care if I survive? You said yourself I'm just leverage, bait. So why bother training me? He turned around, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch in her throat. It wasn't cold anymore. It was burning. Because when I said you were mine, I meant it. And I take care of what's mine. Eat, Raven. Rest. Tomorrow your real education begins. After he left, Raven stared at the lasagna for a long moment before her stomach finally won out over her pride. The first bite nearly made her moan out loud. It was absolutely perfect, rich and layered with flavors, far better than anything she'd ever made herself. Her grandmother's recipe, probably because of course he'd have his chef make it. He was getting inside her head, learning her, cataloging her weaknesses and her desires. It should have terrified her. Instead, a traitorous part of her felt seen. She ate in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon over the sprawling grounds, trying not to think about how easily she could get used to this life. The next morning, Marco woke her up at 6 a.m. with a curt knock. Training yard. 5 minutes. Raven dragged on some yoga pants and a sports bra, quickly pulled her hair back into a ponytail, and followed him down a maze of unfamiliar hallways to a state-of-the-art gym that would make most professional facilities drool with envy. Dante was already there, decked out in fitted athletic gear that showed off a body sculpted for violence. He was working on a heavy bag, his combinations precise and brutal. He didn't even pause when she entered. You know, Krav Maga is a good foundation, but it's still a sport. I'm gonna teach you how to kill. I don't want to kill anyone. You will when they're trying to kill you. He landed a devastating hook that sent the heavy bag swinging violently. Marco handed her the Glock. The consigliere, his wrist still wrapped from her earlier throw, reluctantly offered her a handgun. Felt heavier than she'd expected. She'd never held a real gun before. Her underground fights were all hand-to-hand, strictly enforced. Safety's here. Dante moved in behind her, his chest pressing against her back, his hands covering hers on the weapon. His body heat instantly seeped into her. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Breathe steady. Targets downrange. She tried to focus on the paper silhouette at the end of the firing lane, trying desperately not to focus on the way his breath stirred her hair. I'm not shooting anyone. Not today. But you need to know how. Need to be comfortable with the weight, the recoil, the reality of it. His voice was low, intimate. Because if Moretti's men come for you, they won't hesitate. And I need to know you can protect yourself if I'm not there. You said I was under your protection. I am not infallible, Raven. No man is. His hands tightened over hers. Now shoot. She squeezed the trigger. The recoil shocked her, and the sound, even through the ear protection, made her flinch. The bullet went wide, missing the target completely. Again, they spent the next 2 hours like that, shooting, reloading, adjusting her stance. By the end, her arms ached, and she'd managed to hit the center mass 7 times out of 30 shots. Not exactly impressive, but Dante seemed satisfied. You don't panic, he observed as she carefully set the gun down. Most people's hands shake like crazy. Yours stayed steady. I've been in cage fights with women who outweighed me by 40 pounds. Takes more than noise to shake me. His eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect. Show me your ground game. Let's see what you can do. He gestured toward the mats in the center of the gym. Every instinct screamed that this was a terrible idea, but she was tired of feeling helpless, and the cocky tilt to his mouth suggested he thought she'd back down. Raven Cole had never backed down from a fight in her life. She stepped onto the mat. No rules except one rule. First tap loses. His smile was dangerous. Try not to hurt me too badly, Bella. She didn't wait for him to get ready. She exploded forward, shooting for a double-leg takedown, the same move that had won her last 3 underground fights. But Dante moved like water, sidestepping and catching her in a front headlock that should have ended the match right there. Should have. Raven twisted, using his own leverage against him, and somehow managed to slip out. She was faster, but he was stronger and far more experienced. They grappled for position, a chess match of bodies and balance. She went for an armbar, he defended. He tried to take her back. She escaped. And then his hand was in her hair, yanking her head back, his other arm wrapping around her throat in a rear-naked choke that cut off her air supply. Tap. He growled in her ear. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her vision started to darken around the edges. She should tap, should submit. But instead, her hand found his wrist, and she bit down hard. He released her with a curse, and she rolled away, gasping for air. When she looked up, he was staring at his bleeding wrist, then at her, and something in his expression made her freeze. You bit me. You were choking me. That's kind of the point of a choke. Yes, but... He was smiling. Actually smiling. Wide and genuine and slightly unhinged. No one's drawn my blood in 5 years. I'm sorry. Don't be. He crossed the distance to her in 2 long strides, grabbed her face in both hands, and kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't asking for permission. His mouth claimed hers with bruising intensity, tasting of coffee and raw possession, and something darker that she couldn't quite name. Raven's brain screamed at her to push him away, to fight, to resist. But her body had other ideas. She kissed him back with equal ferocity, her fingers twisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Even as she knew she should run as far and as fast as she possibly could, he tasted like danger and sin. And when his tongue swept against hers, a moan escaped her throat before she could stop it. He pulled back just enough to whisper against her lips, "You're magnificent when you fight." Then reality crashed back in. Raven shoved him hard. He let her, stumbling back a step. She pressed her fingers to her swollen lips, her heart hammering in her chest. "Don't ever do that again. Lie to yourself if you want, Bella." His eyes were molten. "But your body just told me everything I need to know." "My body doesn't know you're a criminal. Your body doesn't care." He turned away, grabbing a towel. "That's enough for today. Tomorrow we work on knife defense." Dismissed. She fled. That night, Raven stood in the shower for 40 minutes, desperately trying to wash away the feel of his hands, his mouth, the traitorous heat that had pulsed deep within her belly. She failed miserably. At 2 a.m., unable to sleep, she crept through the darkened house. She'd quickly memorized the layout: East Wing bedrooms, West Wing offices, ground floor living spaces, and kitchen. She headed for the kitchen, thinking a cup of tea might help to calm her racing thoughts. She found Dante instead. He sat at the massive marble island, shirtless, a glass of amber liquid in one hand and a stack of papers in the other. Scars mapped his torso, bullet wounds, knife cuts, the hieroglyphics of a life lived in violence. Under different circumstances, she might have found them horrifying. Instead, they somehow made him achingly human. Can't sleep either? He didn't even look up from his reading. She should leave. Should go back to her room and try to forget the taste of him. Just wanted tea. Kettles there. Chamomiles in the cabinet above. He took a sip of what was probably whiskey. Fair warning, I'm told I'm expletive company at 3 o'clock in the morning. Raven made her tea in silence, hyper-aware of his presence. The kitchen was huge, but somehow he managed to fill the entire space. When her tea was ready, she absolutely should have left. Instead, she found herself sliding onto the stool across from him. "What are you reading?" "Contracts." He finally looked up, and she could see exhaustion shadowing his eyes. Import agreements, shipping manifests, customs documentation. The boring part of running an empire. "I thought the boring part was deciding who to kill." His mouth quirked into a wry smile. "That's actually the interesting part. The paperwork is what kills you slowly." He set down his glass. "Why are you really awake, Raven?" "Bad dreams. About today, the kiss, about you getting killed because of me." The words just tumbled out before she could stop them. "You said Moretti would come for me. What if he comes for you instead? Because you're protecting me." Dante studied her for a long moment. "Are you worried about me, Bella?" "I'm worried about being responsible for someone's death. I've been a marked man since I was 15. He pushed the papers aside. "My father groomed me to take over the family. Taught me the business, the violence, the politics. When I was 22, a rival family killed him. Shot him right in front of me. They wanted me to watch." Raven's chest tightened with a sudden wave of empathy. "I'm sorry. I killed them all." His voice went flat, completely emotionless. "Every man involved. 12 bodies in one night. That's when they started calling me Il Diavolo, the devil. Because I showed no mercy. Felt nothing." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand who I am. What I am." He stood, circling the island until he was standing beside her, close enough to touch. "I'm not a good man, Raven. I've killed, tortured, done things that would give you nightmares. But I protect what's mine with everything I have. Moretti can come. I welcome it, because this time I have something worth fighting for. I'm not yours. Keep telling yourself that." His hand came up, cupping her jaw with surprising gentleness. But every time you look at me, I see the truth. You hate that you're attracted to me. Hate that your body responds when I'm near. But you can't help it any more than I can help wanting you. This is insane. Most worthwhile things are. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I didn't plan this. Didn't want you. You're a complication I don't need. But the moment you stood up to me, threw out the devil himself without blinking, you became the most interesting thing in my world. I'm not a thing. No, you're a force of nature. And I'm the fool who wants to be destroyed by you. He leaned in, his lips brushing against her ear. Go back to bed, Raven. Before I do something we'll both regret. Or not regret. I haven't decided yet. She should move. Should run. But his nearness made her stupid. Made her forget why this was wrong. What if I don't want to go? His intake of breath was sharp and ragged. Don't play games you don't understand. Then teach me. The words came from some reckless, impulsive part of her that she didn't even recognize. You said you'd teach me to survive your world. Teach me this. Teach me why I can't stop thinking about you, even though I should hate you. For a fleeting moment, she thought he'd take what she was offering. His eyes went dark, hungry, and his fingers tightened on her jaw. Then he released her abruptly, stepping back. No, not like this. Not when you're confused and scared and off balance. He ran a hand roughly through his hair, the gesture surprisingly vulnerable. When I have you, Raven, and I will have you, it'll be because you want me, not because you're trying to make sense of a messed up situation, not because I'm convenient or because you think it'll give you control. You'll come to me freely or not at all. She should feel relieved. Instead, she felt inexplicably disappointed. That's very noble for a devil. I'm not noble. I'm selfish. His smile was bitter. Because when you do come to me, I want all of you. Your desire, your surrender, your trust. I want you to choose me knowing exactly what I am. And that's going to take time. And if you never choose me, then I'll just have to live with wanting something I can't have. It wouldn't be the first time. He picked up his glass. Now go before my nobility runs out. Raven fled for the second time that day. Her tea forgotten, her heart racing. Back in her room, she pressed her back against the door and tried to catch her breath. Dante Salvatore was wrong about one thing. She already knew exactly what he was. A monster who somehow made her feel safer than she'd ever felt in her entire life. And that terrified her more than any gun or knife ever could. Chapter 4. Forbidden Touch. 3 days passed in a strange, unsettling routine training with Marco every morning, learning weapons, tactics, and security protocols. Afternoons spent researching Dante's legitimate businesses, trying to understand the structure of his vast empire. Evenings spent eating dinner alone in her room while Dante attended to business that he never specified. They deliberately avoided each other. By unspoken agreement, neither of them mentioned the late-night kitchen conversation or the kiss that had branded itself into her memory. On the 4th day, everything changed. Raven was in the library, because of course his compound had a 2-story library that would put most universities to shame, when Dante found her. She'd been reading about the Salvatore family's shipping operations, trying to figure out the difference between legitimate trade and outright smuggling. You're frowning. He leaned against the doorframe, dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Bad book. Confusing book. She held up the logistics report. You move cargo through 6 ports on the East Coast. Half of it's fully documented. The other half just seems to disappear into a legal gray area. Smart girl. He crossed the room to her, peering over her shoulder at the report. What do you think the ambiguous cargo is? Drugs? Weapons? Stolen art? Much more boring. Tax avoidance? He pulled up a chair beside her. When you import goods, you pay customs fees based on their declared value. If you undervalue the goods, you pay less tax. It's technically illegal, but really hard to prove. That's it? You're not running heroin or trafficking weapons. His expression hardened. I have rules. No drugs. They destroy families. No human trafficking. That's slavery, plain and simple. No weapons to terrorist organizations. The Salvatore family built its power on vice and violence. Yes, but we have lines we don't cross. Honor among thieves? Something like that. He gestured to the papers. Why the sudden interest in my business dealings? You said I was your assistant. Assistants should probably understand what they're assisting with. She met his intense gaze. Plus, if I'm going to be bait for your enemies, I should probably know why they hate you so much. Fair point. He pulled the report from her hands, set it aside, and stood up. Come with me. If you really want to understand my world, I'll show you. 20 minutes later, they were speeding down the highway in his Audi R8, heading through Jersey toward the docks. Dante handled the car with the same lethal precision that he brought to absolutely everything. Fast but always in control, aggressive but never truly reckless. Where are we going? Port Elizabeth, one of my shipping facilities. He glanced over at her. You said you wanted to see the business firsthand. This is it. Legal, profitable, and occasionally dangerous. They passed through a series of security gates. Dante's car was instantly recognized. The facility was absolutely massive. A sprawling landscape of shipping containers stacked like building blocks, towering cranes moving cargo with effortless ease, trucks loading and unloading their precious goods, normal, industrial, and undeniably boring. Until she saw the men. They were dressed in longshoreman clothes, but their eyes were too alert, their movements far too coordinated. Security disguised as workers. Dante parked near a massive warehouse and led her inside, his hand settling possessively on the small of her back. The warehouse interior was dim and cavernous, filled with crates and pallets stacked high. In the very center, 5 men stood in a tight circle around a bound figure who was kneeling on the concrete floor. One of the standing men turned as they approached. Boss, we caught him planting a tracker on the Shanghai shipment. Dante's entire demeanor shifted. The man who'd been almost playful in the car just moments before transformed into something else entirely, something impossibly cold and undeniably lethal. He approached the kneeling figure, crouched down, and grabbed the man's chin in a brutal grip. Who sent you? The man spat blood onto the floor. Expletive you, Salvatore. Dante's backhand was casual, almost lazy, but the sickening crack echoed loudly through the cavernous warehouse. Wrong answer. Let's try again. Who sent you? Raven's stomach churned. This was the harsh reality of his world. Not just paperwork and tedious tax evasion, but blood and raw fear and calculated brutality. She should look away, should be utterly horrified by what she was witnessing. But she found that she simply couldn't stop watching. Dante stood up, rolling his shoulders as if he were simply stretching out a few kinks. Raven, come here. Every single instinct she possessed screamed no. But she forced herself forward, stopping beside him. Up close, the bound man was young, probably in his mid-20s, with a small Moretti crew tattoo clearly visible on the back of his neck. This man works for Vincent Moretti, Dante explained in a conversational tone. He was placing tracking devices on my shipments. Why would Moretti want to track my cargo? She understood immediately. To ambush it, steal it. Learn your routes and schedules. Excellent. He smiled at her, then turned his attention back to his prisoner. See, even my assistant understands basic strategic thinking. So, why did Moretti send someone so pathetically incompetent? I'm not. The man's defiant protest died in his throat when Dante casually pulled a gleaming knife from his jacket. You're a message, Dante continued, as if he hadn't even been interrupted. A test. Moretti wants to see how I respond to even the slightest provocation. If I kill you, I escalate the war. If I let you go, I look weak. He turned the knife slowly in his hand, as if admiring the way the light caught the razor-sharp blade. What do you think I should do, Raven? Horror and a strange, perverse fascination warred within her chest. I think you should let him go. Surprise flickered across Dante's face. Why? Because killing him proves Moretti's point. That you're predictable. That he can manipulate you into reacting exactly how he expects. She forced herself to meet the prisoner's terrified gaze. But if you let him go with a message, you control the narrative. You look merciful, strong, and completely in control. Dante stared at her for a long moment, his dark eyes unreadable. Then he smiled, genuinely pleased. You see, this is why you're so valuable. He crouched down again, casually putting the knife back into his jacket. You get to live. Tell Moretti that Dante Salvatore doesn't dance to his tune. Tell him if he wants a war, he should stop sending children and come himself. And tell him, his voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that only the prisoner could hear, that the girl is off limits. She's mine. Anyone who even touches her dies screaming. Understand? The man nodded frantically, his eyes wide with terror. Good. Marco, cut him loose and dump him at Moretti's club. Make sure everyone sees the bruises. Dante stood up, took Raven's arm. We're done here. Back in the car, Raven's hands shook uncontrollably. The adrenaline crash hit her all at once, leaving her feeling strangely weak and disoriented. She just advised a mafia boss on how to handle a prisoner. Had participated in, what? Psychological warfare? Mercy? Both? Dante started the car but didn't immediately put it in gear. You're wondering if you did the right thing. I don't even know what I did. You saved a life. That man would be at the bottom of the Hudson River right now if you hadn't spoken up. He put the car in gear and began to slowly pull away from the warehouse. I told you before that I value loyalty and courage. You showed both today. Most people in my organization would have stayed silent, letting me handle it my way. You dared to suggest something different because I didn't want to watch you kill someone, and I respect that. They pulled onto the highway, merging into the steady stream of traffic. But don't mistake my mercy for weakness, Raven. I only let him go because you were there, because you asked me to. If it had just been me, he'd be dead. Remember that. She stared out the window at the passing industrial landscape, the gray buildings and bleak skies mirroring the turmoil in her heart. Is this what being your assistant really means? Watching you hurt people? No. It means understanding that sometimes violence is necessary. That in my world, showing weakness gets you killed. He reached over and took her hand in his. She knew she absolutely should pull away, but she just didn't. But it also means I trust you. Trust your judgment. That's rare for me. Why? Because most people either fear me or desperately want something from me. You just want to survive. And you're smart enough to do it. His thumb rubbed slow, soothing circles on her palm. You were right back there. Letting him go shows control. Moretti will be confused, and confusion is always useful. They drove in silence for a long while, his hand still holding hers. It really should have felt incredibly wrong, but instead, it felt strangely grounding. Real. My father died when I was 16. She heard herself say it, the words just tumbling out of her mouth. Suicide. He'd gotten mixed up with some loan sharks, borrowed money he couldn't possibly repay. They threatened him, threatened us. He just couldn't live with the constant fear. So he didn't. Dante's hand tightened imperceptibly on hers. I'm sorry. I swore I'd never be that helpless again. Never let fear control me. That's why I learned to fight, why I can't stand bullies. She looked at him, her gaze searching. And why I'm absolutely terrified of you. I'm not your father's loan sharks. No, you're worse because they just wanted money. She gently pulled her hand free from his grasp. You want me? Yes. No hesitation, no apology. Just a simple, stark statement of fact. I want you, but I'm not going to break you, Raven. I'm going to make you stronger. Teach you how to survive amongst the wolves so you never have to fear them again. Even if you're the biggest wolf of them all. Especially then, because if you can handle me, you can handle absolutely anything. He pulled up to the compound gates. Tonight we're having guests. Dinner at 8 o'clock. You'll be there. Is that an order? It's an expectation. You're part of this now. People need to see you at my side. Need to understand. You're under my protection. He parked, turned to face her fully and said, Wear the red dress, the one in your closet. It'll make a statement. What kind of statement? His smile was pure sin. That you're mine. The red dress fit like sin. Halter neckline, backless, slit to mid-thigh. Elegant but dangerous. Raven stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. She'd left her hair down in dark waves, applied minimal makeup, and felt simultaneously powerful and exposed. A knock. Dante entered without waiting for permission. Of course he did. He changed into a black suit and tie, looking like death in Armani. When he saw her, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Christo," he breathed. The word was almost reverent. He crossed to her slowly, circling like a predator. "You're going to start a war looking like that. Isn't there already a war?" "Fair point." He stopped behind her, their eyes meeting in the mirror. "May I?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. He produced a velvet box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a necklace, diamonds, and rubies that probably cost more than most cars. He fastened it around her throat, his fingers brushing her nape. "Now everyone will know you're under Salvatore protection. These were my mother's." Raven touched the stones, shocked. "I can't wear." "You can. You will." His hands settled on her bare shoulders. "Tonight you'll meet my captains, my allies, and possibly my enemies. They'll try to read you, understand why you matter to me. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just be yourself. Strong, fearless, impossible to ignore. I'm none of those things. You threw me out of a bar." His reflection smiled. "You're all of those things. You just don't see it yet." He offered his arm. She took it. Together, they descended to the dining room where 24 people waited. Men in suits, a few women in designer dresses, all watching with predatory interest as Dante Salvatore entered with an unknown woman on his arm. The message was clear. She belonged to him now, and God help anyone who forgot it. Dinner was a nightmare of political maneuvering disguised as polite conversation. Raven sat at Dante's right hand, the place of honor, while men whose names she struggled to remember discussed territories and percentages and barely veiled threats. The women assessed her with calculating eyes, trying to determine if she was a threat or an opportunity. Halfway through the third course, a woman in emerald green leaned forward. "So, Miss Cole, how exactly did you meet Dante?" The table went quiet. Raven set down her wine glass. "I threw him out of the bar where I worked." Shocked silence. Then Dante's deep laugh broke the tension. "She did, quite literally. Had my consigliere on his ass in seconds." "Why?" Another captain, older, with scars on his hands, asked. "Because he was being an asshole," Raven said simply. "I don't tolerate bullies." More silence. Then the scarred captain smiled. "I like her, boss. She's got more balls than most of you." Dante agreed. His hand found Raven's under the table, squeezed, support, approval. The rest of dinner passed more easily. She fielded questions, deflected inappropriate ones, and watched the dynamics. These men respected Dante, but feared him too. He ruled through strength, not love. It was a lonely kind of power. After dessert, as guests filtered onto the terrace for cigars and nightcaps, Dante pulled her aside into his study. The moment the door closed, his mask dropped. Exhaustion shadowed his eyes. "You did well tonight. I felt like I was being interviewed by a firing squad." "You were." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. "They needed to see you. See that you're real, that you matter." He clinked his glass against hers. "To surviving your first MAFIA dinner party." She sipped, the whiskey burning. "Is it always like that?" "Worse, usually. Tonight was tame." He moved to the window, staring out at his guests below. "Being what I am means constant performance. Constant vigilance. One sign of weakness and they'll turn on me like sharks. Sounds exhausting." "It is." He turned back to her and for the first time, she saw past the armor to the man beneath. Tired, lonely, human. But tonight was easier. Having you there, knowing someone at that table didn't want something from me. I want my sister safe. That's not the same as wanting to use me. You negotiated honestly. I respect that." He set down his glass, approached her slowly. "Thank you for tonight, for not embarrassing me. Did you really think I would? I thought you might try to escape mid-dinner or stab someone with a fish fork." His smile was genuine. "The fact that you did neither shows remarkable restraint." "The night's not over," she said. He laughed, real unguarded. Then his expression shifted, heated. "No, it's not." His hand came up, cupping her face. "Tell me to stop." "Stop what?" "This." He kissed her. This time it was different. Not claiming or conquering, asking. His lips moved over hers with devastating gentleness. Tasting. Exploring. When his tongue swept against hers, she opened for him, her hands fisting in his shirt. The whiskey glass fell from her grip, shattering on the floor. Neither noticed. Dante backed her against his desk, his body pressing against hers, hot and hard and perfect. His hands roamed her bare back, her sides, careful of the dress, but promising everything. "Dante." His name was a gasp against his lips. "Say it again." He kissed down her jaw, her throat, her shoulder. "Say my name like that." "We shouldn't." "Probably not." But he didn't stop. His teeth grazed her collarbone, sending electricity straight through her. "Tell me to stop, Raven. Tell me you don't want this." She couldn't because she did want it. Wanted him, despite every logical reason not to. Her body arched into his touch, shameless, desperate. "I can't." "Can't? What?" His hand slid up her thigh, fingertips brushing the slit in her dress. "Can't tell you to stop." His groan was pure satisfaction. He claimed her mouth again, deeper, hungrier. The world narrowed to his hands, his lips, the solid heat of him against her. Nothing existed beyond this moment until the door burst open. Marco stood in the doorway, his face grim. "Boss, we have a problem." Dante pulled back immediately, his expression shifting from passion to lethal focus in a heartbeat. "What problem?" "Moretti's men just hit our warehouse in Brooklyn. For casualties. They took the Salvatore shipment and..." He hesitated. "They left a message for her." Raven's blood turned to ice. "What message?" Marco held up his phone. The image showed the warehouse wall spray-painted in red. "Give us the girl or everyone dies." Dante's entire body went rigid. When he turned to her, his eyes were black with fury. "Get her to the safe room now." "Dante, don't argue." He grabbed her shoulders. "This is what I warned you about. Moretti knows you matter to me. He's going to use that. Use you. And I will burn this entire city down before I let him touch you. For people died, and for more will die if you're not safe." He kissed her forehead fierce and fast. "Please, Bella, go with Marco. Let me handle this." She wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but the terror in his eyes, terror for her, made her nod. As Marco hustled her from the room, she heard Dante on the phone, his voice cold as death. "Mobilize everyone. I want Moretti found within the hour. And someone tell our police contacts to look the other way. Tonight, the rules are suspended. Anyone wearing Moretti colors is fair game." The war had begun, and she was the reason why. Chapter 5. Blood Oath. The safe room was exactly that. A reinforced bunker beneath the house, stocked with supplies, weapons, and enough surveillance equipment to monitor the entire compound. Marco sealed her inside with a grim, "Don't open this door for anyone but the boss," and left her alone with her fear. Raven paced the small space, still wearing the red dress and her mother's diamonds, feeling ridiculous and helpless. Above her, she could hear footsteps, shouting, vehicles arriving and departing. Dante mobilizing his army, for people dead because of her. She sank onto the cot in the corner, head in her hands. This was her fault. If she'd just stayed away that night, if she'd let Dante bully Danny without interfering. The monitor flickered. She looked up to see Dante on screen, standing in his office, surrounded by armed men. He was giving orders, his face a mask of controlled violence. She couldn't hear the audio, but she didn't need to. The body language told her everything. He was going to war. Hours crawled past. Midnight came and went. On the monitors, she watched guards patrol, cars leave and return. Lights flicker on and off throughout the compound. Once she saw a bloodied man being dragged through the garage. She looked away. At 3 a.m., the safe room door unlocked. Raven grabbed the Glock Marco had left her. She'd learned enough to know how to use it and aimed at the entrance. Dante appeared, and she nearly dropped the gun in relief. He looked like hell. Blood splattered his shirt, Not his, she hoped. His knuckles were split. A bruise darkened his jaw. But he was alive. "It's over," he said simply. She set down the gun with shaking hands. "What happened?" "I found Moretti's warehouse where he's been storing stolen cargo. Recovered our shipment. Sent him a message of my own." He moved into the room, closing the door behind him. "3 of his men are in the hospital. The rest are in the morgue. You killed them. I told you I would." No apology in his voice. "They came after what's mine. That has consequences." "And Moretti?" Still breathing barely. Dante's smile was savage. "I wanted him alive so he could appreciate the full extent of his mistake. Tomorrow he'll wake up in his own bedroom, which I broke into, by the way, and find a knife embedded in his nightstand, inches from where his head was. The message is clear. I can reach him anywhere, anytime." She should be horrified, should condemn this violence, but all she felt was relief. "Is it over?" "For now. He'll retaliate eventually, but tonight we won." He moved closer, and she saw the exhaustion beneath the adrenaline. "I'm sorry you were scared." "I wasn't scared. I was angry." She stood, matching his gaze. "Angry that I'm the reason people died. Angry that I'm helpless down here while you fight my battles." "They're not your battles. They're mine. You just gave me something worth fighting for." His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "And you're not helpless, Bella. You're the strongest person in this compound because you chose to stay. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Run, hide, betray me to Moretti for your freedom." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "But you're still here, still wearing my mother's diamonds, still looking at me like I'm human instead of a monster. Maybe you're both. Definitely both." He leaned in, resting his forehead against hers. "I killed 6 men tonight. I'll kill 6 more tomorrow if they threaten you. Does that scare you?" "It should." "No. Then you're as crazy as I am." He pulled back, studying her face. "There's something I need to tell you about why Moretti wants you so badly. Because he thinks I matter to you. That's part of it, but there's more." He moved to the monitors, pulling up a file. "I had Marco dig into your background. Found something interesting about your father." Raven's stomach dropped. "What about him?" "David Cole worked construction. Took out loans from Moretti's father 20 years ago. The loan sharks who drove him to suicide. They were Moretti operations." Dante turned to face her. "Your father died because of Vincent Moretti." The room spun. "What?" "Moretti knows this, which means he knows you have a reason to hate him. But more importantly," he pulled up another file. "Your father was one of our informants." "No." She shook her head. "That's not possible. He was just a construction worker who worked on buildings owned by both families, who saw things, heard things, and who started feeding information to my father before Moretti's father got to him." Dante's expression was gentle. "I'm sorry, Raven, but your father was trying to bring Moretti down. That's why they targeted him. Why they destroyed him." Tears burned her eyes. Her father, her weak, broken father who'd taken his own life, had been brave once, had tried to fight back. Why didn't your father protect him? He did, or tried to. Gave him money, offered sanctuary, but your father refused. Said he couldn't put his family in danger. Dante's voice softened. "He loved you too much to let you become a target. So he died instead, hoping Moretti would leave you alone. But Moretti knows who I am. Now he does because I claimed you publicly, connected you to the Salvatore name, which means..." He took a deep breath. "Moretti thinks I'm trying to finish what your father started. Use you as a symbol. Rally people who hate him around David Cole's daughter." Understanding crashed over her. "I'm not just leverage. I'm a threat to him. Yes, you represent his past mistakes coming back to haunt him." Dante gripped her shoulders. "I should have told you sooner. Should have realized the connection. I put you in danger through ignorance. You didn't know. I should have. It's my job to know everything." His jaw clenched. "But I was distracted by you. By what you make me feel. I stopped thinking strategically and started thinking emotionally. That's dangerous in my business. She wiped her eyes, anger replacing shock. My father died trying to bring Moretti down. Yes. And Moretti killed for people tonight, sending me a message. Yes. Then I want to help. The words came out fierce. I want to finish what my father started. Destroy him. Dante's eyes widened. Raven, you said I'm part of this now. That I'm yours to protect. Fine, then let me fight back. She grabbed his bloodied shirt. Teach me. Use me. Do whatever it takes. But I'm done being helpless. For a long moment he just stared at her. Then he smiled. Dangerous, proud, hungry. You understand what you're asking? Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be marked for life. Target. My enemies will always come for you. They already are. Fair point. He pulled her close, his arms banding around her. You're insane. Brave and insane. I learned from the best. He laughed against her hair. Then he pulled back, his expression serious. If we do this, we do it right. Legally and illegally. We build a case against Moretti that even his paid-off cops can't ignore. And when the law fails, and it will, we handle it my way. I can live with that, can you? Because my way means blood. Means crossing lines you can't uncross. His hands framed her face. I need you to be sure. Because once you're in forever. Bonded to me and my family by blood and purpose. In my world, that's a marriage. A blood oath. Are you ready for that? She thought of her father dying alone and afraid. Thought of the 4 people who died tonight because she existed. Thought of Dante who killed without hesitation to protect her. Yes, then say it. His eyes burned into hers. Say you're mine. That you choose this life. This war me. Say it and mean it. I'm yours. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. I choose this. Choose you. For better or worse. Worse, definitely. He kissed her hard, claiming, sealing the vow. You're mine now. Mine to protect. Mine to avenge. Mine to keep. And I'm yours. Whatever you need, whatever you want, you take from me. Understand? Yes. Good. He pulled back, reaching into his pocket. He produced a ring, silver band with a black diamond, masculine and dangerous. This was my father's. He gave it to my mother as a promise. Death before dishonor. Love before life. Violence before vulnerability. He slid it onto her left ring finger. Fit perfectly. We're not married, she whispered. In my world, we just became more than married. We're bound. Blood oath sworn in a safe room at 3 o'clock in the morning with bodies cooling upstairs. His smile was dark. It's the most romantic thing I've ever done. Despite everything, the horror, the violence, the insanity, she laughed. You're insane and you're mine. He kissed her again. Slower this time, tasting. Come on, you need sleep. Tomorrow we start planning Moretti's downfall. He led her from the safe room through the compound that smelled of gunpowder and blood to his bedroom. Not hers. The message was clear. No more separation. They were in this together now. His room was surprisingly Spartan. King bed, minimal furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the grounds. He disappeared into the bathroom, returning with a t-shirt and washcloth. Sit. She obeyed, perching on the edge of the bed. He knelt before her, gently removing her heels, then carefully cleaning the blood from his hands before touching her. When he was satisfied, he unfastened his mother's necklace, setting it reverently in its box. I meant what I said. You're part of my family now. That necklace, this ring, they're not just symbols. They're promises. He helped her out of the red dress, his touch clinical despite the intimacy, and pulled the t-shirt over her head. It smelled like him. Cedar and leather and safety. What happens now? Now you sleep. I shower. Then I hold you until morning because I need to feel you breathing to believe you're safe. He cupped her face. Is that okay? The vulnerability in his question undid her. This man who'd killed 6 people tonight was asking permission to hold her. Yes. When he emerged from the shower wearing only sleep pants, she was already under the covers. He slid in beside her, pulling her against his chest. his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. Dante. Thank you for telling me about my father, for giving me a choice. You always have a choice with me, Bella. Even now, you could walk away. I'd let you go. His arms tightened. It would destroy me, but I'd do it. I'm not going anywhere. Good, because I'm keeping you. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Sleep. Tomorrow the real work begins. She drifted off in his arms, wearing his ring, surrounded by his scent, and felt safer than she'd ever felt in her life. Even though she was sleeping beside a killer, especially because she was sleeping beside a killer. Chapter 6. Claimed. Morning came with sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Raven woke alone in Dante's bed, the sheets beside her still warm. Voices drifted from somewhere in the house. Male, urgent, discussing strategy. The ring on her finger caught the light. Black diamond, silver band, impossibly heavy. She twisted it, still not quite believing last night had happened. Blood oath bound. A knock preceded Sienna bursting through the door. Oh, thank God you're alive. Raven barely had time to sit up before her best friend tackled her in a hug. Sienna, what are you doing here? Dante sent Marco to get me at dawn. Said you'd need friendly faces today. Sienna pulled back, her blue eyes worried. Are you okay? I heard about the attack. The warehouse. God. Raven, I thought. I'm fine. I was in the safe room. She squeezed her friend's hands. Are you okay? Did anyone threaten you? No. Dante had guards on me since the first night. I didn't even know until Marco explained. Sienna noticed the ring, gasped. Are you, oh my God. Did he force you to? No. Nothing like that. How could she explain? It's complicated. Complicated like I'm a prisoner, or complicated like I'm actually falling for my captor. Both. Neither. I made a choice to stay, to fight back against the people who killed my father. She met Sienna's gaze. Vincent Moretti's father is the reason Dad died. Dante told me everything, and I decided I want revenge. Sienna's expression shifted from worry to understanding. Oh honey, I know it's crazy. I know I should run, but... Sienna looked at the ring again. I can't. I'm in too deep now. And part of me doesn't want out because of him, because of a lot of things. She stood, moving to the window. Outside, Dante stood with his captains, gesturing as he spoke. Even from this distance, his authority was evident. He's a monster, but he's honest about it. And when he looks at me, I don't feel like David Cole's broken daughter. I feel like someone worth protecting, worth fighting for. That's Stockholm Syndrome talking. Maybe. Raven turned to face her friend. Or maybe it's just the first time in my life someone powerful chose to use their power to protect me instead of hurt me. Either way, I'm staying. But I need you to go. Get out of the city. Go visit your parents in California. Stay away until this is over. Absolutely not. Sienna crossed her arms. Sienna, you're my best friend. You think I'm running while you're in danger? Besides, Sienna said, Dante already offered me a job coordinating his legitimate businesses. Good pay, benefits, and apparently it's safer here than out there right now. He what? Made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Sienna grinned. His words. I start Monday, so you're stuck with me, babe. Before Raven could respond, Dante appeared in the doorway. He changed into black jeans and a Henley, his hair still damp from a shower. His eyes found her immediately, warming. Good. You're awake. He nodded to Sienna. Give us a moment. Sure. I'll just go explore this palace. Sienna squeezed Raven's hand and left. Alone, Dante crossed to Raven, pulling her into his arms. How'd you sleep? Better than I should have, considering. Good. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. Quick, affectionate touches that felt strangely domestic. I have news. Moretti's holed up in his downtown penthouse, surrounded by security. He's scared. Good. Agreed. But it means we can't get to him directly. So we go after his operation instead. He pulled out his phone, showing her files. These are his businesses. Restaurants, clubs, construction companies, all fronts for money laundering. I've been building a case for months with a federal prosecutor who isn't on his payroll. But I need proof. Hard evidence. What kind of evidence? Financial records. Recordings of incriminating conversations. Testimony from people he's wronged. His eyes gleamed. Your father kept notes. Everything he saw, everything he heard. My father kept them after David died. They're in my safe. Between those notes and new evidence, we can destroy him. Raven's heart raced. My father's notes. I want to see them. I know. Come on. He led her to his office, Sienna trailing behind. The safe was hidden behind a painting. Of course, it was. Inside, among stacks of cash and legal documents, was a worn notebook. Raven took it with shaking hands, her father's handwriting. Dates, times, observations about shipments and payoffs and violence. He'd been meticulous, documenting everything with painstaking detail. On the last page of his journal, dated just 3 days before his untimely death, was a final, haunting entry. They know Met's men were at the site today. They threatened my girls if I talked. I can't let them hurt my babies. If anything happens to me, give this to Salvatore. Make them pay. Tell Raven I love her. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring her vision. Sienna, ever the comforting presence, gently wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Dante stood silent, giving Raven the space she needed to grieve, to absorb the crushing weight of her father's final words. He was strong, Raven whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He tried to fight. He was brave. Dante agreed quietly, his voice laced with respect. And his sacrifice wasn't wasted. We're going to use this. We'll honor his memory by finishing what he started. She closed the notebook, a newfound resolve hardening in her chest, pushing back the grief. What do you need me to do? Moretti owns a club called Inferno. Dante began, laying out their strategy. It's upscale, exclusive, seemingly legitimate on the surface. But the VIP level is where he conducts his real business, meetings with dirty cops, corrupt politicians, and other criminals. He paused, his expression hardening. If we can get inside and plant surveillance, we can gather the evidence we need to bring him down. He pulled up photos on his tablet, displaying the club's layout and security measures. The problem is security. Metal detectors, facial recognition, invitation-only access. It's a fortress. So, we need an invitation, Sienna stated matter-of-factly. Exactly, which is where you come in, Raven. Dante turned the tablet, showing a flyer advertising an upcoming event. Inferno is hosting a charity gala next week. Black tie, $5,000 a plate. All proceeds are ironically going to families of crime victims. Moretti loves the optics. It makes him look legitimate, a philanthropist. You want me to go to his gala? Raven asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. I want us to go as a couple. Dante clarified, his gaze intense. You wearing the Salvatore name, my ring, making it clear you're under my protection. His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking in his cheek. It's risky. He'll know we're there, but he won't make a move in public. There'll be too many witnesses. And while we're playing nice, Marco and my tech team will be planting bugs in his VIP rooms. It's a good plan, Sienna said, nodding in agreement. But Raven needs training. If something goes wrong, she needs to be able to defend herself. Already arranged. Dante assured her. Combat training intensifies starting today. By next week, she'll be able to handle any threat. Dante's hand gently found Raven's. But I won't let anything happen to you. I'll be at your side the entire time. Raven looked at her father's notebook, then at Dante, her expression determined. Let's do it. Let's take him down. The week that followed was a blur of intense preparation. Every morning, Marco trained her in hand-to-hand combat, teaching her real violence, not sport. He showed her how to use her body as a weapon, how to disarm an attacker, how to survive in a close-quarters fight. Afternoons were spent studying Moretti's operation, meticulously memorizing faces, names, and key details about his criminal network. Evenings, Dante coached her on how to move through high society, what to say, how to deflect probing questions, teaching her the art of deception and social maneuvering. And every night, she slept in his arms. They didn't have sex, though God knew the tension was there. A palpable energy crackling between them every time they touched. But Dante seemed determined to take things slow, to let her adjust to her new reality, to ensure she was making conscious choices. He kissed her breathless, touched her until she gasped, but always stopped before crossing that final line. Why? She asked one night, frustrated and aching after he'd brought her to the edge again before pulling back, leaving her wanting more. Because when I have you, and I will, he said, his voice husky. I want you, desperate for it, begging, certain. He kissed her neck, sending shivers down her spine. I want you to choose me with full knowledge of what you're choosing. And right now, with the gala coming, with the danger, I don't know if you're thinking clearly or just caught up in adrenaline. I want you. I know. Raven whispered, her voice trembling. I can feel how much. His hand slid lower, proving his point, igniting a fire within her. But I'm patient, Bella. And when we finally come together, it'll be worth the wait. Promise. By the night of the gala, Raven was wound so tight she could barely breathe. The dress Dante had chosen was black silk, elegant and dangerous, with a neckline that plunged daringly and a back that barely existed. It was a statement, a weapon in itself. She wore his mother's diamonds again, their cool weight a familiar comfort, and the black diamond ring that marked her as his, a symbol of their bond. When she descended the stairs, Dante stopped mid-conversation with Marco, his eyes darkening with undisguised hunger. He wore a black tux that fit him perfectly, making him look like a gorgeous nightmare, both alluring and dangerous. Cristo Santo, he breathed, his voice rough. You're going to get me killed looking like that. That's the plan, she replied, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. He laughed, the sound low and intoxicating, meeting her at the bottom of the stairs. Ready? No, but let's go anyway. The drive to Manhattan was tense, filled with unspoken anticipation. Dante held her hand the entire way, his thumb tracing reassuring patterns on her palm. At Inferno's entrance, paparazzi swarmed, their flashes blinding. Apparently, celebrity criminals were still celebrities, their lives fodder for the insatiable public. Dante shielded her from the cameras, his hand possessive on her waist, a clear message to anyone watching. Inside, the club was opulent, dripping with wealth and excess. Crystal chandeliers glittered, marble floors gleamed, and beautiful people in expensive clothes pretended they weren't rubbing elbows with the criminal elite, all under one roof. Raven recognized politicians, actors, socialites, and, of course, a disturbing number of known criminals. So many criminals dressed in Armani and exchanging pleasantries while mentally calculating who to kill first. She thought with a hint of dark amusement. Salvatore. The voice was smooth, cultured, and laced with venom. How bold of you to show up. Vincent Moretti emerged from the crowd like a shark through water, his presence radiating danger. He was handsome in a cold, calculating way. Mid-40s, with silver at his temples and an impeccably tailored, expensive suit. But his eyes were dead, devoid of warmth. Killer's eyes, Raven recognized. Dante's arm tightened protectively around Raven. Moretti, lovely party, though. I'm surprised you're still walking after our last conversation. Surprised you brought a date. Moretti's gaze slid to Raven, assessing her with a chilling intensity. Does she know how many men you killed last week? His gaze lingered. Forgive me. I don't believe we've been introduced. We haven't. Raven forced herself to meet his gaze, refusing to show fear. And we won't be. I don't associate with the kind of filth that destroys families for profit. Moretti's expression froze, his facade of politeness cracking. Around them, conversations died down, the surrounding crowd sensing the tension. Dante's hand flexed on her waist, a subtle warning or perhaps a sign of approval. She wasn't sure. Careful, sweetheart. You're in my house now. Moretti's smile was arctic, devoid of warmth. Accidents happen. Is that a threat? Dante's voice dropped to a lethal softness, a predator baring his teeth. Because threatening what's mine tends to end poorly for people. Just a friendly warning. Moretti's eyes never left Raven, his gaze piercing. She looks familiar. Have we met before? This was it. The moment of truth. Raven lifted her chin, meeting his cold stare without flinching. My father was David Cole. You had him killed 20 years ago. So no, we've never met. But I know exactly who you are. The shock on Moretti's face was gratifying. A brief flicker of surprise before he regained his composure. He recovered quickly, but not before she saw it: recognition, calculation, and a hint of fear. David Cole, the construction worker. He had forgotten about him, underestimated him. I haven't, Raven continued. She stepped forward, out of Dante's protective hold, asserting her own agency. And I'm going to make sure you remember him right before everything you've built comes crashing down. Moretti's hand twitched instinctively toward his jacket, reaching for the weapon he undoubtedly carried. Instantly, Dante was between them, his presence a wall of lethal intent, his body radiating a silent threat. Touch your weapon and you die before it clears leather, he said, his voice dangerously low. In front of all these nice people. Bad for business, Vincent. Moretti's hand dropped, but his smile was vicious, a promise of retribution. Enjoy the party, Salvatore, both of you while you can. He disappeared into the crowd, melting back into the shadows from which he'd emerged. Dante pulled Raven close, his heart hammering beneath her hand. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Both probably, she admitted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Definitely both. He kissed her hard, claiming her in front of everyone, a blatant display of possession. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed with a mixture of anger and admiration. You're magnificent. Insane but magnificent. He paused, regaining control. Now let's finish this. They worked the room, playing their parts to perfection. Dante, the charming criminal, exuding power and charisma. Raven, the mystery woman who'd captured Il Diavolo's attention, radiating an aura of intrigue. While they distracted and deflected, Marco and his team moved through the VIP levels, skillfully planting surveillance devices, their movements precise and unseen. It was working. Everything was going according to plan, proceeding smoothly, until the lights went out, plunging the club into darkness and chaos. Screaming erupted, people shoved and panicked, and the sound of breaking glass echoed through the room. Raven felt Dante's arm around her waist, pulling her close, his grip firm and reassuring. Stay with me, he growled, his voice tight with urgency. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in an ominous red glow. And in that crimson light, Raven saw them, Moretti's men, moving through the crowd with deadly purpose, heading straight for them. Dante, I see them. He pulled her toward the exit, his movements swift and decisive. Marco, extraction now. But more men blocked the doors, cutting off their escape route. They were surrounded, trapped in a carefully orchestrated ambush. Moretti's voice came over the sound system, amplified and mocking. Leaving so soon, Salvatore? But we haven't even served dessert. And I have such a special treat planned, especially for your lovely date. Dante's hand found hers, his grip tightening. Whatever happens, stay behind me. Understand? No. She reached beneath her dress, pulling out the small pistol Marco had hidden there. We fight together, remember? Blood oath. His expression shifted, a complex mix of fear, pride, and love all tangled together. You're going to be the death of me. Not tonight. She checked her weapon, adrenaline singing through her veins, sharpening her senses. Tonight we survive. Around them, Dante's own men emerged from the crowd, revealing themselves. He'd brought backup, of course he had. But Moretti had the numbers, his forces overwhelming. What should have been an elegant evening had devolved into a full-blown battlefield. And Raven Cole, waitress turned mafia queen, prepared to fight for her life, just like her father had. But this time the ending would be different, she vowed. This time they would win. Chapter 7, Vendetta. The first shot shattered the crystal chandelier, sending shards of glass raining down around them. Dante moved like lightning, shoving Raven behind a marble pillar as bullets tore through the space they just occupied. Screaming civilians stampeded for the exits, trampling each other in their panic, their elegant gowns and tuxedos stained with blood and fear. The gala dissolved into carnage in seconds, the illusion of civility shattered. "Stay down," Dante ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. He returned fire, his aim precise even in the chaos, two of Moretti's men dropping to the floor. "Marco, clear a path to the east exit," Dante shouted over the din of gunfire. But Marco was pinned down across the room, trading shots with three of Moretti's enforcers. Dante's other men were scattered, outnumbered, fighting for their lives. This wasn't a simple ambush. It was an execution. Moretti had planned this meticulously, invited them here to die, to make a public example of them. Raven's hand shook slightly, but her mind was clear, focused. 3 years of fighting had taught her one thing: panic kills you. She peered around the pillar, assessing the situation. 5 enemies stood between them and the nearest exit, with more flooding in from the VIP level, reinforcing Moretti's forces. Dante's gun would run empty soon, leaving them vulnerable. They needed an advantage, a way to even the odds. Her eyes landed on the bar, 20 feet away, fully stocked with expensive alcohol. Flammable alcohol, she realized, a dangerous but potentially effective weapon. Dante, the bar. He understood immediately, his eyes widening slightly. "You're insane." "You've mentioned that," she retorted, a grim smile playing on her lips. She checked her pistol, confirming she had 6 rounds left. "Cover me." "Raven, no." But she was already moving, keeping low, using the panicked crowd as cover, weaving through the chaos. Bullets whizzed past her head, too close for comfort. Someone screamed nearby. She felt concrete dust shower her as a shot impacted inches from her skull, a near miss that sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. But she reached the bar, diving behind it as gunfire chewed up the woodwork, splinters flying. Bottles of top-shelf liquor surrounded her: vodka, rum, grain alcohol, all beautifully flammable. She grabbed bottles, smashing them on the floor, soaking the area with the potent liquid. The fumes made her eyes water, stinging her nostrils. "Get ready to run," she shouted to Dante, her voice barely audible above the gunfire. She lit a bar napkin with a dropped lighter, the flame flickering in the dim light. With a swift motion, she tossed it onto the alcohol-soaked floor and ran, sprinting back toward Dante. The fireball erupted behind her, a wall of flame that separated them from half of Moretti's men, creating a temporary barrier. Sprinklers activated, but too late, their efforts woefully inadequate. The fire spread fast, feeding on the alcohol, engulfing the bar in flames. Smoke filled the space, choking and disorienting. Dante caught her, pulling her toward the exit, his grip tight and protective. "That was the most reckless thing you've ever done." "It worked, didn't it?" They burst through the emergency exit into a service corridor, Marco and 3 other men right behind them. But they weren't safe yet, their escape far from assured. Footsteps echoed ahead, growing louder, signaling the presence of more of Moretti's crew cutting off their escape. "Trap!" Marco gasped, his face grim. "He's funneling us." Dante's jaw clenched, his expression hardening. "Then we go through them." Raven, center of the formation. "Don't stop moving." "I can fight," she protested, wanting to contribute more. "You can also be smart. We need you alive, not brave and dead." He checked his clip, confirming it was empty. Marco tossed him a fresh magazine. "On my mark." They charged forward in a tight unit, Dante leading the charge, a force of nature. The corridor erupted in gunfire, a cacophony of deafening noise. Raven felt bullets pass so close they stirred her hair, a terrifying reminder of the danger they faced. One of Dante's men went down screaming, clutching his leg in agony. Then another, his face contorted in pain. But Dante was relentless, advancing through the fire like death incarnate, his movements precise and efficient. His shots were surgical headshot, center mass, nothing wasted. Bodies dropped, littering the corridor. The survivors scattered, their nerve broken by Dante's ferocity. They burst out into the parking garage, the Manhattan night air shockingly cold after the inferno inside. Dante's Escalade waited, engine running, ready for their escape. But between them and freedom stood Vincent Moretti himself, flanked by a dozen armed men, a formidable obstacle. Going somewhere? Moretti's smile was vicious, triumphant. He held a detonator in one hand, a deadly weapon that could end it all. You burned down my club, Salvatore, made me look weak in front of everyone. That has consequences. You tried to kill us? Dante snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. And I'll succeed. I just wanted to look you in the eyes when I do it. Moretti's gaze shifted to Raven, his eyes filled with malice. You especially, Miss Cole. Your father died screaming, begged for his life. Pathetic. Rage whited out Raven's vision, a blinding fury that threatened to consume her. She raised her pistol, aiming at Moretti's head, her hand steady despite the storm raging inside her. You're lying, aren't you? His smile widened, a cruel, predatory expression. I was there, watched my father put the fear in him, watched him break. That's what Coles do. They break. Raven, don't, Dante warned, sensing her volatile emotions. But she fired, ignoring his warning. The bullet caught Moretti in the shoulder, spinning him around. The detonator flew from his hand, skittering across the concrete floor. His men opened fire immediately, unleashing a hail of bullets. Dante tackled Raven, covering her body with his as bullets ripped through the air, impacting the Escalade and the surrounding vehicles. Marco dove for the detonator, risking his life. A Moretti enforcer kicked it away, preventing him from reaching it. They grappled, fighting for control of the device that would blow them all to hell, their struggle desperate and brutal. Dante dragged Raven toward the Escalade, returning fire with his free hand, protecting their escape. Get in the car. Not without you, stubborn woman. He shoved her into the back seat, then laid down covering fire, his movements fluid and efficient. Marco, move. Marco headbutted his opponent, stunning him, grabbed the detonator, and ran, sprinting toward the Escalade. They piled into the Escalade, tires screeching as the driver floored it, accelerating away from the chaos. Behind them, Moretti's men gave chase in 3 vehicles, determined to finish the job. He rigged the building, Marco gasped, holding up the detonator, his face pale. Explosives throughout the structure. He was gonna blow it with us inside. He still might, Dante said grimly, glancing back at Inferno. People were still evacuating, stumbling out of the smoke-filled club, their faces masked with soot and terror. If he has a backup trigger. The explosion lit up the night sky, a massive fireball visible from Jersey. The shockwave rocked their vehicle, throwing them against their seats. Raven looked back to see the entire building collapsing, flames reaching toward the stars, a scene of utter devastation. People scattered like ants, running for their lives. Emergency sirens wailed, piercing the night air. Oh my God, Raven whispered, pressing her hand to the window, her voice filled with horror. All those people are Moretti's problem now, Dante said, his voice cold and devoid of emotion. He just murdered dozens of civilians to get to us. He paused, his expression hardening. The police, the feds, the media, they'll all come for him. This is the beginning of the end. But his hands shook slightly as he checked her for injuries, his concern overriding his anger. Are you hurt? No, you bruised me. Nothing serious. He pulled her close, pressing his face into her hair, inhaling her scent. You shot him, actually shot him. He said my father begged. He was trying to provoke you, get you to do something stupid. Dante pulled back, gripping her shoulders, his gaze intense. But you hit him. First time anyone's shot Vincent Moretti and lived to tell about it. He's not dead. Shoulder wound. He'll live. Marco turned from the front seat, grinning despite the blood on his face. "Boss, she's a natural. No hesitation, clean shot, tactical awareness. She almost got herself killed." Dante snapped, his protectiveness flaring. "But she didn't. And we got the surveillance planted before everything went to hell." Marco held up a tablet, displaying the confirmation. "Audio and video bugs in 3 VIP rooms. Whatever Moretti says in those rooms, we'll hear it." Dante stared at the device, then laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical, a release of pent-up tension. "We did it. We actually got the bugs planted. Plus, I burned down his club and shot him," Raven added, a hint of pride in her voice. "Productive evening." "You're both insane," Dante muttered, shaking his head in disbelief, but he kissed her hard, possessive, grateful for her survival and her strength. "When we get home, I'm locking you in the safe room and never letting you out. Like hell you are. Watch me." They drove through the night, leaving the inferno and its aftermath behind. Police vehicles screamed past them toward the explosion, their sirens wailing. News helicopters circled overhead, their spotlights illuminating the chaos below. By morning, the story would dominate every channel, a media frenzy. Inferno nightclub destroyed, dozens injured, owner Vincent Moretti reportedly wounded. And somewhere in the chaos, surveillance devices waited to capture the evidence that would destroy him forever. But first, they had to survive his inevitable retaliation. Back at the compound, Dante's entire operation mobilized, preparing for war. Guards tripled, patrolling the perimeter with increased vigilance. The perimeter was expanded, creating a larger buffer zone. Every entrance was fortified, transforming the compound into a fortress. Dante paced his office like a caged animal, his energy restless and volatile. His shirt was stained with blood, a grim reminder of the night's violence. His knuckles were raw, evidence of the close quarters fighting. Raven watched him from the doorway, her elegant dress torn and smoke-damaged, a stark contrast to her surroundings. They'd both showered and changed into tactical clothing, Raven in black cargo pants and a fitted tank top, Dante in similar gear, both ready for action. "You're angry," she observed, stating the obvious. "I'm furious." He whirled to face her, his eyes blazing with intensity. "You could have died. 1 inch to the left and that bullet would have taken your head off. If I hadn't tackled you when I did." His voice broke, unable to articulate the horror he felt at the thought of losing her. "Don't ever do that again." "Do what? Fight back? Take unnecessary risks?" "Shooting the man who killed my father wasn't unnecessary." She crossed to him, refusing to be intimidated by his anger. "You said I was yours, that we were bound. That means I fight beside you, not behind you. It means I protect you. And I protect you," he said, his voice firm. She shoved his chest, her expression defiant. "You don't get to make me care about you and then ask me to watch from the sidelines while you risk your life. That's not how this works. You don't know how this works," he said, frustrated. "Then teach me." She shoved him again, her touch insistent. "You made me part of your world, gave me your mother's ring, told me we were bonded. You don't get to take that back when it gets dangerous." Dante grabbed her wrists, pulling her close, his grip tight but not painful. "I'm not trying to take it back. I'm trying to keep you alive. Then trust me to keep myself alive." She met his wild gaze, her voice unwavering. "I'm not some delicate thing that breaks. I survived my father's suicide, years of poverty, underground cage fights, and your world. I'm stronger than you think. I know how strong you are. That's what terrifies me." His grip gentled, his thumb stroking her wrists, a silent apology. "Because strong people think they're invincible and then they die. And I can't." He rested his forehead against hers, his voice raw with vulnerability. "I can't lose you. Not now. Not when I just found you." The vulnerability in his voice shattered her anger, melting away her frustration. "You won't lose me," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "You can't promise that," he replied, his voice laced with fear. Neither can you, she countered, meeting his gaze. But we're in this together. For better or worse. Remember? She pulled one hand free, touching his face, her fingers tracing the lines of his jaw. I'm not going anywhere, Dante. You're stuck with me. He kissed her then, desperate, claiming, pouring everything he couldn't say into the press of his lips. She kissed back with equal intensity, fingers tangling in his hair, her body responding to his touch. The adrenaline from the night, the fear, the relief, it all coalesced into raw need, a burning desire that consumed them both. Dante backed her against his desk, his hands everywhere her waist, her hips, sliding up under her tank top to touch bare skin, igniting a firestorm within her. She gasped into his mouth, arching into his touch, her body trembling with anticipation. This was different from before, more urgent, more real. Dante, tell me to stop, she whispered, her voice breathless. His teeth grazed her neck, sending shivers down her spine. Tell me you don't want this. I want this. Want you. Her nails raked down his back, her touch both demanding and pleading. Don't stop, he groaned, lifting her onto the desk, stepping between her thighs, his body pressed against hers. I wanted to wait, make it special. But seeing you tonight, so fierce and brave and mine. He captured her mouth again, his kiss devouring, consuming. I need you, Raven. Need to claim every part of you. Need to know you're real and alive and here. Then take me, she whispered, her voice trembling. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer, inviting him in. I'm yours completely. A knock on the door froze them both, shattering the intimacy of the moment. Boss, Marco's urgent voice called out from the other side. We have a problem. Dante dropped his head to her shoulder, cursing in Italian. His voice filled with frustration. This better be life or death. It is. Moretti just went live on social media. You need to see this. They straightened their clothes, trying to look professional instead of seconds away from consummating their bond. The air thick with unspoken desire. Marco entered with a tablet, his expression grim, a stark contrast to the passion that had just filled the room. On screen, Vincent Moretti sat in what looked like a hospital room, his shoulder bandaged, his face pale but determined. Behind him stood his top enforcers, all armed and menacing, a show of force. This message is for Dante Salvatore, Moretti said to the camera, his voice cold and unwavering. You came to my establishment, destroyed my property, shot me, killed my men, and you used David Cole's daughter to do it. That's a declaration of war I'm happy to accept. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes dead and cold, promising retribution. I'm offering a bounty, $5 million to anyone who brings me Raven Cole. Alive. I want to look her in the eyes while I take everything from her, just like her father. And Salvatore, when I'm done breaking her, I'll send you the pieces one by one. The video ended abruptly, leaving the room silent, the threat hanging heavy in the air. Then Dante smiled, a terrible, savage thing, a predator scenting blood. He just made a fatal mistake. How? Raven's voice shook despite her efforts to control it, fear mixing with anger. He went public, put a price on your head in front of the world. Dante took the tablet, already typing furiously. Which means the feds can't ignore this. Public death threats, terrorism charges. He just gave us everything we need to destroy him legally. And illegally? Marco asked, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Illegally? Dante repeated, his smile widening. He declared open war, which means all agreements are void. All truce is dissolved. Every family that stayed neutral now has to pick a side. He looked at his consigliere, his gaze intense. Call our allies. Tell them Moretti just signed his death warrant. And tell them the Salvatore family is offering our own bounty $10 million to anyone who brings me Vincent Moretti alive. Because when I finally get my hands on him. He didn't finish the sentence. The unspoken threat hanging in the air, more terrifying than any words could convey. Raven touched his arm, her expression worried. This is escalating fast. Good. Fast means it ends soon. He cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the violence that surrounded them. One way or another. He paused, his eyes searching hers. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She thought of her father, of the notebook, of everything that had led to this moment. The chain of events that had brought her to Dante's side. Yes. Then let me protect you. Let me finish this. His thumb brushed her lips, his touch possessive. And when it's over, when Moretti's dead or in prison and you're finally safe, I'm gonna marry you properly. In a church with witnesses legally, and in every way that matters because you're mine, Raven Cole, and I take care of what's mine. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. He kissed her softly, sealing his vow. Now go get some rest. Tomorrow we prepare for war. As she left, escorted by guards to the safe room, Raven touched the ring on her finger and realized something terrifying. She didn't just care about Dante Salvatore. She loved him, the monster with gentle hands, the killer who made her feel safe, the man who'd burn the world for her. And God helped them both because loving him meant joining his war, a war that would end in blood. Chapter 8, Broken. The attack came at dawn, shattering the peace of the morning. Raven woke to explosions rocking the compound, alarms screaming, and Dante's voice barking orders through the intercom, his tone urgent and commanding. Everyone to defensive positions. They're breaching the east wall. She grabbed the Glock from her nightstand, a habit she'd insisted on, and ran to the hallway. Guards rushed past, weapons drawn, their faces grim. Through the windows, she saw flames licking the sky, a scene of chaos and destruction. Marco appeared, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, his expression frantic. Safe room now. Where's Dante? She demanded, refusing to leave without knowing his whereabouts. Fighting. Go. He urged, trying to pull her toward the safe room, but she couldn't, not while he was out there risking his life. She followed Marco instead, keeping low as they moved through the compound, navigating the chaos. Gunfire echoed from outside, controlled 3-round bursts from Dante's men, wild automatic spray from the attackers, a symphony of violence. They reached the armory, a heavily fortified room stocked with weapons and ammunition. Dante stood inside, strapping on body armor, barking orders into his phone, his movements efficient and precise. When he saw Raven, his expression shifted from tactical to furious, a mixture of anger and protectiveness. I told you to. I'm not hiding while you fight. She grabbed a vest, ignoring his protests, her determination unwavering. Either armor me or get out of my way. Either get out of my way or it's you I'm going through. For a split second, she was sure he'd just haul her to the safe room himself. Then he cursed, yanking her close. You're gonna give me a heart attack. Get in line. She laid a hard kiss on him. Now, tell me what's going on. Moretti hired every damn gun for hire in New York. 50 men, maybe more, hitting us from 3 different sides. He tightened her armor, double-checking every strap. The bounty made you the most valuable target in the city. Every mercenary, bounty hunter, and desperate fool wants that 5 million. So yeah, we're outnumbered like crazy. But we got a better position, better training, and home field advantage. He tugged her toward the command center, a room packed with monitors showing every inch of the compound. They're gonna try to breach, grab you, and run. We can't let them get inside. On screen, she watched Dante's guys hold the perimeter. They were well-trained, disciplined, but the sheer number of attackers was overwhelming. For every invader they took down, 2 more popped up. They're mercenaries, Marco said, eyes glued to the screens. No loyalty, no coordination, just guns and greed. If we can break their momentum. An explosion ripped through the north gate. The screens went white, then black. When they flickered back on, armed men poured through the breach like ants. They're inside, Dante growled. He grabbed an assault rifle, checked the magazine. Marco, take the west wing. I'll hold the main floor. Raven. He turned to her, his eyes showing something raw and desperate. Please go to the safe room. Let me protect you. No. She chambered a round in her pistol. We fight together. You said I was yours. That means you're mine too. And I don't abandon what's mine. His jaw tightened. Then he gave a curt nod. Stay behind me. Don't take unnecessary risks. And if I tell you to run, you run. Deal? Deal. They moved through the compound like a well-oiled machine. Dante leading, Raven covering their six, and 2 guards flanking. The main floor had turned into a full-blown battlefield. Furniture overturned for cover. Bullet holes peppering the walls. Broken glass everywhere. A mercenary rounded the corner. Dante dropped him with 2 shots. Another appeared on the balcony above. Raven fired, her bullet finding him in the chest. He tumbled over the railing, slamming onto the marble floor with a sickening crunch. Good shot, Dante muttered. They cleared room by room, engaging hostiles, falling back when they had to. Raven's hands were rock steady, her aim true. 3 years of cage fighting had taught her to perform under pressure. Every shot she fired was controlled, precise. But there were so damn many, too many. They retreated to Dante's office, barricading the door. Outside, footsteps thundered. Voices shouted orders. The mercenaries were regrouping, getting ready for a coordinated assault. Dante checked his ammunition. I'm down to 2 magazines. Same. Raven reloaded, her hands moving mechanically. How long until reinforcements arrive? Our allied families are mobilizing, but it's gonna take time. We need to hold for another 30 minutes. He moved to the window, assessing. Or we need to do something drastic. Like what? His eyes gleamed with dangerous inspiration. Like I go out there, draw him toward me while you escape through the underground tunnel. Absolutely not. Raven, you ain't sacrificing yourself. She grabbed his arm. We survive together or not at all. That was the deal. There's no other way. The door exploded inward. Flash grenades rolled into the room. Raven squeezed her eyes shut, but the concussive blast still disoriented her. Strong hands grabbed her, yanking her backward. She fought, kicking, biting, but there were too many of them. Through the chaos, she heard Dante roar her name, heard gunfire. Then something slammed into her head, and darkness swallowed her whole. She woke up in a moving vehicle, her head pounding, hands zip-tied behind her back. The trunk was dark, cramped, stinking of oil and fear. She tested her bonds tight, professional. No give. Think Marco had taught her this. Zip ties can be broken if you know how. She curled her body, bringing her hands under her legs until they were in front. Found the trunk release disabled, of course. She felt around for anything sharp. Her fingers brushed metal. Tire iron. Not ideal, but better than nothing. The vehicle stopped. Voices outside. Rough. Celebrating. 5 million boys. We're all rich. The trunk popped open. 3 men stared down at her, all armed. One reached for her. She swung the tire iron with everything she had, connecting with his jaw. He went down hard. The others reacted, but she was already moving, rolling out of the trunk, still swinging. The tire iron connected with a kneecap. Someone screamed. She ran. They were in an industrial area, warehouses and shipping containers. Dawn painted the sky gray. She didn't know where she was, didn't know if Dante was alive, didn't know anything except she had to keep moving. Bullets chipped the concrete behind her. She dove behind a shipping container, breathing hard. 3 men against 1 unarmed woman with tied hands. Bad odds, but she'd faced worse. She used the tire iron to saw at the zip ties, ignoring the pain as plastic cut into her wrists. They finally snapped. Blood ran down her hands, but she was free. The men spread out, hunting her. She heard their footsteps, their casual confidence. Come out, sweetheart. Make this easy on yourself. Easy. Not a damn thing about this was easy. She waited until one passed close, then struck, connecting the tire iron with his temple. He dropped. His gun skittered away. She grabbed it, checked the magazine. Half full, 2 left. She got Jimmy. One shouted. So there's still 2 of us. She's just some girl. Rage burned through Raven's fear. Just some girl. Her father had been just some construction worker. She'd been just some waitress. But together they dared to fight back. And she wasn't done fighting. She stepped out from behind the container. "Come get me," they charged. Stupid. Overconfident. She fired twice. Both went down. One in the leg, one in the shoulder. Non-lethal shots because she wasn't a killer. Not yet, not unless she had to be. She secured their weapons, used their phones to call the compound. Marco answered on the first ring. "Raven." "Oh, thank Christ. Where are you?" "I don't know. Industrial area, shipping containers. I escaped the mercenaries who grabbed me." Her voice shook despite her efforts to control it. "Is Dante alive?" "He's en route. Comin' for you. Hold your position." The line went dead. She looked around the empty industrial wasteland, armed with stolen guns and fading adrenaline, and realized just how alone she was. Minutes passed, or maybe it was hours. She couldn't tell. She held her position, weapon ready, watching every shadow. Then she heard it. Engines. Multiple vehicles converging on her location. Asterisk, "Please be Dante. Please be Dante. Please." Asterisk, the first SUV that rounded the corner wasn't Dante's. It was Moretti's. Vincent Moretti stepped out, his wounded shoulder bandaged, but his smile vicious. Well, the little bird flew the nest only to land right in my hands anyway. How convenient. Raven raised her weapon. "Stay back, or what? You'll shoot me again?" He laughed. "Go ahead. My men will cut you down before my body hits the ground. But I'd rather have you alive. More fun that way." His men surrounded her. Too many to fight, too well armed to resist. She was out of options, out of luck, out of time. "Drop the gun, Miss Cole, or I'll have my men start shooting random civilians until you comply. Your choice. Your pride or innocent lives." She dropped the gun. Moretti's smile widened. "Smart girl, just like your father. Right up until he wasn't." They grabbed her, dragging her toward the SUV. She fought anyway, kicking, screaming, refusing to make it easy. A fist connected with her stomach. She doubled over, gasping. "Careful," Moretti warned his men. "I want her conscious. She needs to be awake for what comes next." They threw her in the vehicle. As it pulled away, she saw another car arrive in the distance. Dante's Escalade. Too late, always too late. Through the rear window, she watched him exit the vehicle. Saw him fall to his knees as he realized what had happened. She'd been taken, and Dante had lost the one thing he'd sworn to protect. The look on his face, devastation, rage, grief, would haunt her forever, if she lived long enough to have a forever. Chapter 9. Ashes and Fury. They took her to Moretti's backup facility, a warehouse in Red Hook that smelled of rust and death. He'd planned this meticulously, prepared for every contingency. The room they locked her in was windowless, soundproof, with a single chair bolted to the floor. Interrogation room, torture chamber, tomb. Moretti entered an hour later, pulling up a chair opposite her. His shoulder was clearly paining him, but his smile never wavered. "Comfortable." Raven didn't respond. She'd learned in the cage fights, never show weakness, never give them what they want. Strong, silent type. "I respect that." He leaned back. "Your father was chatty, begged, cried, offered me everything he had, which was nothing, of course, just like you. My father was brave. He fought you. He was a coward who killed himself rather than face consequences." Moretti's eyes glittered. "But you're different. You've got fire. I can see why Salvatore wants you. You're exactly his type. Stubborn, reckless, self-destructive. What do you want?" "I want to hurt Dante Salvatore in ways he can't recover from, and the best way to do that is through you." He stood, circling her. "See, killing you would be mercy. Quick, clean, over. But breaking you, destroying everything that makes you strong, that's art. You're insane. I'm practical." He pulled out his phone, queued up a video, and showed her. The screen displayed Dante, bound and bloodied, in what looked like another warehouse. He was alive, but barely, his face swollen, his body covered in burns and cuts. Around him, Moretti's men worked methodically, professionally. "He's being tortured," Moretti explained conversationally. "Has been for the past hour. Every scream, every plea for mercy. I've recorded it all. Want to hear?" "No." But her voice broke on the word. "Too bad." He played the audio. Dante's screams filled the room, guttural, agonized, inhuman sounds that ripped through Raven's chest like knives. She tried to block it out, tried to think of anything else, but the sounds burrowed into her brain. "Stop. Please, stop." Moretti paused the recording. "Interesting. You'll beg for him, but not for yourself. True love, I suppose. How touching. I'll kill you." The words came out flat, emotionless. Promise, not a threat. "Many have tried. All have failed." He pocketed the phone. "But I'm feeling generous. I'll make you a deal. You tell me everything Salvatore has planned, every ally, every safe house, every weakness, and I'll make his death quick, painless, and I'll let you watch so you know he didn't suffer because of your silence." "Go to hell." "Wrong answer." He moved to the door. "I'll give you an hour to reconsider. Think about it. Think about him screaming in agony while you sit here with the power to end his suffering. All you have to do is talk." He left. The lock clicked. Raven was alone with the echoes of Dante's screams and the weight of an impossible choice. Time lost meaning in that windowless room. Could have been hours or days. Periodically, someone would enter Moretti or one of his enforcers and show her new videos of Dante's torture, each one worse than the last. They were breaking her systematically, professionally, and it was working. "Just tell him something," one guard said, almost kindly. "Anything. Make it stop." But she couldn't because Dante had trusted her, given her access to his empire, his secrets, his vulnerabilities. Betraying him meant betraying everyone under his protection: Marco, Sienna, all the families allied with Salvatore, and her father who died rather than betray his principles. She had to be strong. Had to. The door crashed open. Not Moretti this time. A figure in tactical gear, face hidden by a mask, moving with lethal efficiency. He shot the guard outside, then entered the room. For a moment, Raven thought it was Dante. Same build, same movements, but when he removed the mask, it was Marco, his face grim. "We're getting you out of here." Dante is leading the assault on the front entrance, drawing Moretti's attention. He cut her restraints. "Can you walk? I can run." She stood, wobbly but determined. The videos of him being tortured. Fake makeup and acting. "We've known where you were since they took you. Had to wait for the right moment to extract you." He handed her a weapon. Moretti thinks he has all the cards. He's about to learn otherwise. They moved through the warehouse, avoiding patrols, working toward the exit. But they weren't moving away from the fighting. They were moving toward it. "Where are we going to end this tonight?" "One way or another." Marco kicked open a door. The warehouse opened into a massive loading bay. And there in the center stood Dante Salvatore and Vincent Moretti, circling each other like wolves. Both were armed, both were bloodied, both were done playing games. "Raven." Dante's eyes found her. Relief and rage warring in his expression. "Get her out of here." "No chance," she called back. "We finish this together." Moretti laughed. How touching, the lovers reunited. Too bad it's just in time to watch each other die. He raised his weapon. Dante moved faster, tackling him. They crashed to the ground, grappling for control. The gun skittered away. Around them, their respective forces engaged Salvatore's men against Moretti's mercenaries. A final battle for dominance. Raven started forward, but Marco grabbed her arm. "Let him finish it. This is between them now." She watched helplessly as Dante and Moretti fought. It was brutal, vicious. Two apex predators trying to kill each other. Moretti was older but crafty. Dante was younger but injured from the compound assault. They were evenly matched until Moretti pulled a knife. It happened so fast, the blade flashing, Dante twisting, red blooming across his side. He stumbled, and Moretti pressed the advantage, driving him backward toward the edge of the loading dock, a 15-foot drop to concrete below. This ends now, Salvatore. Moretti raised the knife for a killing blow. Raven moved without thinking. She'd been a fighter long before she'd been a mafia queen. Her body knew what to do even when her mind froze. She threw her weapon not at Moretti but at Dante. He caught it midair, brought it up and fired 3 shots sent her way. Moretti stumbled backward, shock written across his face. "You," he gasped. "You can't." "I already did." Dante's voice was cold as death. "You came after my family, my woman, my home. Did you really think I'd let you live?" Moretti fell, his body hitting the concrete with a final, terminal thud. Silence descended. The fighting stopped as both sides realized their leader was down. Moretti's men, mercenaries with no loyalty, immediately surrendered or fled. The war was over. Dante swayed, pressing his hand to his bleeding side. Raven ran to him, catching him before he fell. "I've got you. I've got you, Raven." He touched her face, his hands shaking. "You're safe. Thank God. You're bleeding. I'll live." He pulled her close despite the pain. "You're safe. That's all that matters." Marco appeared with medics. They wanted to separate them, treat Dante's injuries. He refused until Raven promised she wouldn't leave his side. Only then did he let them work. The medics stitched him up in the back of an ambulance while police sirens approached. But Dante had made calls the right people, the right palms greased. By the time the cops arrived, the narrative was set. Moretti had kidnapped Raven Cole, violating his restraining order. Dante Salvatore had rescued her in self-defense. Witnesses confirmed it. The surveillance evidence from Inferno supported it. The law, for once, sided with the criminals. "It's over," Dante whispered as they drove away from the warehouse. "It's finally over." Raven leaned against him, careful of his injury. Around them, the city woke to a new dawn. News helicopters circled overhead. The story would dominate headlines for weeks. Vincent Moretti, crime lord, dead in a warehouse shootout. Dante Salvatore, legitimate businessman, cleared of all charges. They'd won against all odds. They'd survived. But Raven couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning because she'd changed in that warehouse, learned what she was capable of, and she'd realized something terrifying. She wasn't afraid of Dante's world anymore. She belonged in it. Chapter 10. Reckoning. 1 week later, Raven stood in Dante's office, staring at the wall where he'd hung her father's notebook in a frame, a memorial to the man who'd started all of this. "He'd be proud of you," Dante said from behind her. "Would he?" She touched the glass. "I helped kill a man, became part of a criminal organization, lost any claim to innocence. You brought justice to the person who destroyed your family. That's not a sin, Bella. That's closure." He wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "And you're not part of a criminal organization. You're part of my organization. There's a difference, is there?" "Yes." He turned her to face him. His stitches were healing well, the bruises fading. "We take from the corrupt, protect the vulnerable, play the game by our rules. It's not the law, but it's justice. And sometimes justice is more important." She looked up at him, this man who'd become everything to her. "What happens now?" "Now?" His smile was slow, dangerous, perfect. "Now we finish consolidating power. Moretti's territories are in chaos. His allies are scrambling to make deals. We're in a position to control half of the Northeast if we play this right." "That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant." He cupped her face. "You're asking about us? About what comes after the war?" "Yes. The answer is everything." He kissed her softly. "Everything I promised. Marriage, family, forever. But first," he pulled back, his expression turning serious. "I need to clean house, make sure there are no more threats, no more Morettis waiting to strike." Over the next weeks, Dante moved with surgical precision. Moretti's captains were given a choice: swear loyalty to Salvatore or leave New York forever. Most chose loyalty. The few who didn't disappeared. Raven learned not to ask about the disappeared. She also learned how to run an empire. Dante taught her everything: the legitimate businesses that funded the illegitimate ones, the political connections that kept the law at bay, the careful balance of fear and respect that maintained power. She was good at it, terrifyingly good. "You have a gift for this?" Marco observed one afternoon, watching her negotiate a truce between two feuding captains. "Natural authority. People respect you or they fear Dante will kill them if they don't. Same thing in our world." By the end of the month, the Salvatore family was stronger than ever. Dante controlled more territory, commanded more loyalty, and answered to no one. He'd become exactly what he'd always been destined to be, king of New York's underworld, and Raven Cole was his queen. The formal ceremony came on a Friday night, not a wedding, not yet, but an acknowledgement of her position. Every captain, every ally, every family connected to Salvatore gathered in the compound's main hall. Dante stood before them all, Raven at his side, and made a declaration that would ripple through the entire criminal underworld. "This woman is my partner in all things. What I own, she owns. Who I protect, she protects. An attack on her is an attack on me. And anyone foolish enough to test that will learn what happens when you cross the Salvatore family." One by one, the captains knelt a blood oath, renewed this time, including her in the sacred circle. She was no longer just Dante's woman. She was part of the family, protected, powerful, feared. After, alone in their room, Dante pulled her close. "Any regrets?" "About which part? Falling for a criminal, becoming a criminal myself, or enjoying it far too much?" He laughed. "All of the above. No regrets." She meant it. "You gave me something I never had: power over my own life, the ability to fight back, to protect the people I love. That's worth any price." "Even your soul?" "My soul was already sold the night you walked into that bar. I just didn't know it yet. Then I got a bargain." He deepened the kiss, his hands roaming her body with familiar possession. "Because your soul is magnificent." That night, they finally consummated everything they'd built. Not rushed or desperate, but slow and deliberate. He worshipped every inch of her, whispering promises in Italian, marking her as his in every way that mattered. And she claimed him back, her nails raking down his back, her teeth leaving marks on his shoulder. When it was over, they lay tangled together, hearts racing, breath mingling. "Marry me," Dante said properly this time, not a blood oath in a safe room, but vows in a church in front of God and everyone. "Make it legal and permanent and unbreakable." "Yes." No hesitation. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile was incandescent. "Next month, before you change your mind." "I won't change my mind." "I know, but I'm impatient." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "I've waited my whole life for you, Raven Cole. I'm not waiting any longer." The next weeks passed in a blur of wedding preparations. Sienna, now Dante's chief operations officer, handled most of the logistics. Thank God. Raven had no idea how to plan a mafia wedding. Apparently, it involved guest lists that read like FBI watch lists and seating charts that required diplomatic genius. "We can't seat the Genovese family near the Lucchese faction," Sienna explained, showing Raven yet another seating arrangement. "Not after what happened in '03. What happened in '03 stays in '03. Nobody talks about '03. Sienna shuddered. "Just trust me, separate tables." Through it all, Dante remained a steady presence. He'd insisted on one thing: the wedding would be hers. Whatever she wanted, no matter how impractical or expensive or complicated, he'd move heaven and hell to give it to her. So she asked for something simple: a small ceremony in the compound's garden under the stars with only people they actually cared about. No media circus, no political theater, just them, their family, and the future they were building together. Dante looked at her like she'd handed him the world. Perfect. Her wedding dress arrived a week before the ceremony, custom-made champagne silk, elegant without being ostentatious. When she tried it on, Sienna cried, "You look like a queen. I feel like an imposter." Raven studied herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger, confident, powerful, dangerous. Nothing like the waitress who'd kicked out a mafia boss 3 months ago. "You earned this," Sienna said firmly. "You fought for it, bled for it. You're not an imposter." You're exactly where you belong. The night before the wedding, Dante found Raven in the library, reading her father's notebook one final time. He sat beside her, pulling her into his lap. Second thoughts. No, just saying goodbye. She closed the notebook to the girl I was. The life I thought I'd have. It's bittersweet. You can still have a different life. I'd let you go if you asked me to. I know that's why I'm not asking. She turned to face him directly. You gave me a choice, Dante. Every single step of the way you offered me a choice. And I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Choosing us. I have absolutely no regrets. Not even about the violence we've faced. Especially not about the violence. She kissed him deeply, because it means I'm never going to be helpless again. Never at someone else's mercy. I possess power now. Real, substantial power, and I'm going to use it to protect the people who can't protect themselves, just like my father tried so hard to do. Then we'll do it together, side by side. He stood up, lifting her right along with him. One last night before you're officially Mrs. Salvatore. How should we spend it? Violently or passionately? Or maybe both? Definitely both. They spent the entire night tangled up together, celebrating the ending of one chapter of their lives, and joyfully anticipating the beginning of another. By dawn, Raven knew with absolute certainty, without a single shadow of a doubt, that this was exactly where she belonged. Right here in Dante Salvatore's arms, securely within his empire, and forever held within his heart. And God help anyone who even thought about trying to take any of it away from her. Chapter 11. King and Queen. The wedding day dawned clear, bright, and absolutely perfect. Raven woke up alone in their bed. Dante had been strictly banned from their room by Sienna, who took the no seeing the bride before the ceremony rule incredibly seriously. It's bad luck, Raven. You know this. We're criminals planning a mafia wedding, Raven pointed out, with a playful smirk. I think we're already knee-deep in bad luck here. Sienna simply shook her head. All the more reason to follow tradition. We need every bit of good karma we can possibly get. Sienna bustled energetically around the room, expertly helping Raven into her exquisite dress, meticulously fixing her hair, and applying only the bare minimum of makeup. You need all the good karma you can get, Bella. Trust me on this. By 3 p.m. sharp, the sprawling garden had been completely transformed. There were pristine white flowers everywhere you looked, carefully arranged subtle lighting, and rows of chairs arranged in intimate groupings. Only 50 guests had been invited, a truly tiny number by typical mafia standards. But these were the people who really mattered the most. Marco was looking deeply uncomfortable in his stiff tux. Dante's carefully vetted legitimate business partners were all there. Allied family heads who'd proven their absolute loyalty during the brutal war with Moretti were also in attendance. And Lily, Raven's beloved sister, had been flown in all the way from Boston. Her cancer was thankfully in remission now, thanks to the cutting-edge treatment that Dante had funded. She sat in the very front row, tears already streaming freely down her radiant face. You look so beautiful, she mouthed to Raven, her expression full of love and pride. The music started softly. Raven walked slowly down the makeshift aisle all by herself. She'd absolutely refused to be given away like some piece of property. Her eyes were locked firmly on Dante, who was waiting for her at the altar. He was wearing a flawlessly tailored black tux that made him look like a devastatingly gorgeous nightmare. His expression incredibly raw with barely restrained emotion. When she finally reached him, he gently took both of her hands in his. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life, Bella. You're not so bad yourself, Il Diavolo, she replied with a soft smile. The officiant, a priest whom Dante had somehow miraculously convinced to perform a wedding ceremony for two notorious criminals, began the service. Dearly beloved, the vows were mostly traditional with a few carefully chosen modifications. Dante added his own personal touch. I promise to protect you with my life, to cherish you every single day, and to never, ever give you any reason to regret choosing me. I promise to always be worthy of your trust, even during the times when I don't deserve it. And I promise that anyone who ever threatens you in any way, shape, or form will learn exactly why they call me the devil. The guests laughed nervously at this vow. Raven's turn came next. I promise to stand right beside you, not behind you, to fight fiercely for us, for our family, and for everything that we build together. I promise to call you out whenever you're being an arrogant ass, and to love you even when you frustrate me to no end. And I promise that anyone who threatens you will quickly learn that I'm every bit as dangerous as you are. There was even more nervous laughter at this point. The rings? Marco stepped forward and produced them. Matching bands made of platinum and black diamonds. Dante smoothly slid hers onto her finger, adding it to the ring that he had given her that fateful night in the safe room. She did the same for him, her hands shaking just slightly with emotion. By the power vested in me, the priest said, sounding immensely relieved to finally reach this point in the ceremony. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Dante pulled her close, kissing her deeply, possessively, and with unabashed claim right there in front of everyone. When they finally broke apart, the guests erupted in enthusiastic applause. Mrs. Salvatore, he whispered huskily against her soft lips. Mrs. Salvatore, she agreed with a dazzling smile. I really like the sound of that. The reception was everything that a mafia wedding should be. Elegant, incredibly expensive, and filled with an undercurrent of barely contained violence. Heartfelt toasts were made, some were undoubtedly sincere, while others were purely strategic. Extravagant gifts were presented, each one seemingly more opulent than the last. The best gift of all came from Marco. The federal prosecutor just announced formal charges against 12 of Moretti's former captains. Racketeering, corruption, and murder. Your father's meticulously kept notes made all of this possible. His legacy truly lives on, Raven. Raven hugged him tightly, completely ignoring his obvious discomfort with any kind of physical affection. Thank you so much for everything, Marco. For protecting me and for always believing in me. You earned it, Raven, he said gruffly. Plus, you're really good for the boss. He's almost human now. He actually smiled, just a little. It's disturbing, I'll admit, but appreciated. As night began to fall, Dante pulled her out onto the dance floor. They moved together in perfect synchronization, while all of the guests watched and whispered amongst themselves. The new power couple of the New York underworld, the devil and his queen. Happy, Dante murmured, sounding almost delirious with joy. She rested her head comfortably on his broad shoulder. Yes, though I keep waiting for something absolutely terrible to happen, like the other shoe to drop. Nothing terrible is going to happen to us, Bella. I've secured everything. I've made airtight deals with every family in the city. You're safe. We're safe now and we'll be safe forever. He gently tilted her chin up so that he could look deeply into her eyes. I told you before that I don't lose, and I'll never lose you. That's a promise you can take to the bank. Later that evening, after all the guests had finally left and they were finally completely alone, Dante lovingly carried her to their room, fully embracing the tradition. He sat her down gently on the edge of the bed. Then he pulled out one final gift. One more thing, amore mio. He opened the small velvet box. Inside was a key. Just a simple, ordinary-looking key. Nothing particularly special about it at all. What's this? She asked, a bit confused. This is the key to your sister's new apartment in Boston. It's located very close to the hospital. It's fully paid for, completely furnished, and it's staffed with a private nurse for when she needs additional care. He pressed the key into her open hand. She'll never have to worry about money again, Bella. Medical bills, living expenses, everything is completely taken care of. This is my wedding gift to you. Her safety, her future, completely guaranteed. Raven's vision instantly blurred with tears. Dante, your family is my family now, and I will always take care of my family. He tenderly wiped away her tears. No more worrying constantly about Lily. No more fighting tooth and nail just to keep her alive. She's safe now. You did it, Raven. You finally saved her. She kissed him then, her heart overflowing with gratitude, desperate need, and profound love. He responded with equal intensity, carefully unzipping her dress, reverently worshipping every single inch of skin that he revealed. They made slow, tender love, celebrating their sacred union and everything that they had both miraculously survived in order to reach this incredible moment. Afterward, tangled together in the darkness, Dante whispered softly, "I love you, Raven Salvatore. From the very first moment you threw me out of that bar, I was completely yours. I just didn't fully realize it yet. I love you too, Dante. Even though you're absolutely insane, incredibly dangerous, and completely wrong for me in every single way." She paused, then added with a soft laugh, "But especially because I'm all of those exact same things." She laughed quietly, then grew serious. "So what comes next? After the honeymoon, after all the celebrating, what do we do with this vast empire we've built?" "We rule it, Mia Regina." His arms tightened protectively around her. "Together, we'll expand our legitimate businesses, we'll clean up some of our darker operations, and we'll use our considerable power to protect the people who genuinely need protecting. We'll be the kind of leaders who actually make a real difference in the world. It won't always be perfect, or strictly legal, or entirely moral, but it will be ours, and we'll do our absolute best." He paused for a moment. "And if someone challenges us, then we'll just have to remind them exactly why they call us the most dangerous couple in all of New York." His smile was dark and undeniably predatory. "Because you're not just my wife, Bella. You're my equal, my partner in everything, my queen, and anyone who ever forgets that fact will quickly learn a very, very painful lesson." "I like the sound of that very much," she purred softly. "Good, because tomorrow we have a lot of work to do," he said with a sigh. He kissed her forehead. "But tonight we celebrate. The war is finally over. The wedding is officially done. And the rest of our lives together finally begins now." Raven settled comfortably against his strong chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his beating heart, and thought about the long and arduous journey that had ultimately brought her to this exact moment. From waitress to widow to queen, from helpless to powerful, from completely alone to deeply loved. It had been violent, chaotic, and undeniably insane, but she wouldn't change a single moment of it. Not one. Chapter 12. Forever Bound. 6 months later, Raven Cole Salvatore stood on the expansive balcony of their luxurious penthouse, overlooking the breathtaking lights of Manhattan. The entire city sparkled below them, a dazzling display of wealth and power. Their city now, in every single way that truly mattered. Dante's criminal empire had expanded exponentially in the past 6 months. They controlled territories that stretched all the way from Boston to Philadelphia, with numerous legitimate businesses fronting their carefully organized, and often quite ruthless, operations. But they'd also changed things drastically. Dante had completely cut ties with anything even remotely involving illegal drugs or abhorrent human trafficking. They'd invested heavily in various community programs, drug and alcohol rehab centers, and job training facilities. The neighborhoods under Salvatore protection were significantly safer, cleaner, and far more prosperous than they had ever been before. It turned out that a criminal empire run with a surprising degree of actual ethics could often do far more good than most legitimate, albeit often corrupt, governments. "You're thinking way too loudly," Dante said, as he casually joined her out on the balcony. He lovingly wrapped his strong arms around her from behind, pulling her gently back against his solid chest. "So, what's on your mind, amore?" "Just thinking about how incredibly different everything is now, Dante. 6 months ago, I was just a struggling waitress, constantly worried about my sister's mounting medical bills. Now I'm—" She gestured broadly at the glittering city sprawling out before them. "This. Any regrets?" he asked softly, his voice full of genuine concern. "You keep asking me that, Dante. And I'll keep asking until I fully believe your answer, Bella." He kissed her tenderly on her neck. "Because this life, it's not easy, certainly not safe. And it definitely isn't what you were raised to believe was right or moral. No, but it's absolutely right for us, Dante." She turned in his arms to face him directly. We're doing good, Dante. Real, tangible good in the world. Those 12 captains that Marco mentioned at our wedding, all convicted and safely behind bars. Moretti's entire criminal network has been completely dismantled. And the Salvatore Foundation, she said, smiling brightly. Your legitimate charity work has already helped hundreds and hundreds of desperate families. Our charity work, he corrected her gently. You run fully half of it, amore. It turned out that her years of living in relative poverty had actually given her unique and invaluable insight into what struggling families really needed most. The foundation provided crucial job training, confidential addiction counseling, affordable legal aid, and much-needed educational scholarships, all funded by Dante's somewhat less than legal activities. But the positive results were undeniably real. It still feels a bit surreal sometimes, though, she admitted quietly, that we're actually making a difference in people's lives. That's because most criminals are complete idiots, Dante said with a shrug. His hand settled protectively on her still flat stomach. They just take and destroy without any thought or care. We take from those who can easily afford to lose it, and then give generously to those who desperately need it. Robin Hood with significantly better guns, she said with a sly grin. Raven covered his hand with her own. Speaking of which, you're pregnant, Bella. Not a question, but a confident statement of verifiable fact delivered with absolute certainty and bone-deep satisfaction. She blinked in surprise. How did you possibly know? You've been nauseous every single morning, crying uncontrollably at cheesy commercials, and you haven't had your period in almost 6 weeks. I pay attention, Bella Mia. His smile was absolutely incandescent. We're having a baby, Raven. I was actually going to tell you tonight, Dante. I even had this whole elaborate, romantic plan all worked out. To hell with the plan, amore. He kissed her hard, then dropped suddenly to his knees, reverently pressing his face against her stomach. We're having a baby. A mini version of you to terrorize me mercilessly for the next 18 years. He paused, then chuckled softly. Or a mini version of you, Dante, to give me a heart attack every single day. Either way, he looked up at her, and she'd honestly never seen him look so incredibly vulnerable. Thank you for this, Raven. Thank you for everything. Thank you for choosing me even when you definitely should have run far, far away. I told you, Dante. I have absolutely no regrets. She gently pulled him back up to his feet. Though I am genuinely curious how you're actually going to handle diaper duty. I'll delegate, he said immediately. Like hell you will, she retorted playfully. He laughed heartily, pulling her close. Fine, I'll learn how. Though I do absolutely reserve the right to have Marco assist me during particularly difficult situations. Your consigliere is absolutely not babysitting our child, Dante. He owes me, he said with a shrug. Remember when you threw him? They bickered playfully back and forth, but underneath all of their teasing was an undeniable feeling of pure joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy, the kind that Raven had honestly thought that she would never feel again after her father had died. Later that evening, Dante called an impromptu family meeting. The core Salvatore leadership quickly gathered in the compound's main room. Marco, Sienna, Dante's 3 top captains, and a few other trusted allies. I have an important announcement to make, Dante said, his arm wrapped protectively around Raven's waist. In approximately 7.5 months, there will be a brand new member of the Salvatore family. My wife is pregnant. The entire room erupted in shocked excitement. Marco actually looked faint. Sienna squealed with pure delight. The captains offered gruff congratulations, tinged with genuine happiness. This was truly unprecedented. Il Diavolo, the devil himself, was actually having an heir, finally building a real legacy that went far beyond just violence. This changes things, Dante, Marco said once the initial celebration had finally died down. Security needs to be tripled at the very least. We need to secure far better medical facilities just in case. And he swallowed hard. We need to start preparing for succession. I'm not dying, Marco, Dante said dryly. No, but you're becoming a father, Dante. That means thinking long-term and proactively planning for every possible contingency. Marco pulled out his tablet, already running various worst-case scenarios. If something ever happens to you, Mrs. Salvatore needs to be fully able to run everything all by herself. She already can, Dante said simply. But yes, we will absolutely formalize it. Draw up the necessary paperwork. Make it abundantly clear to everyone that Raven has full authority to act completely in my name. He paused, then added firmly, she's not just my wife, she's my co-ruler, my absolute equal in all things. The captains nodded in complete agreement. This wasn't at all surprising to any of them. They'd all seen Raven in action over the past several months. She was undeniably tough, undeniably fair, and undeniably strategic. She truly earned their deep respect the hard way. There's something else, Raven said, standing up straighter. With a baby coming, we absolutely need to clean up this organization even more. I really don't want my child growing up around any unnecessary violence. She took a deep breath. So, I'm proposing that we significantly accelerate our transition to legitimate businesses. A 5-year plan to completely phase out everything illegal, except for the barest of essentials. Silence filled the room. This was a truly radical idea, and a potentially dangerous one, even. But Dante was already nodding thoughtfully. She's right, as always. We've been casually talking about it for months. Anyway, now we actually have a firm deadline, and a very compelling reason. He looked directly at his assembled captains. Start the process immediately. Identify which operations are potentially sustainable legally. Sunset everything else, no exceptions. We adapt quickly or we die a slow, agonizing death. And I absolutely plan to be around to personally teach my kid how to throw a proper punch. Over the following months, the entire Salvatore empire underwent a massive transformation. It certainly wasn't easy. Numerous rivals saw their determined transition to legitimate business as a sign of weakness, and tested them constantly. Each challenge was met with overwhelming force, a firm reminder that going legitimate didn't necessarily mean going soft. Raven's pregnancy progressed smoothly, despite the increasing stress. She absolutely refused to slow down in any way, shape, or form, and continued to run various operations from the safety of the compound, even when Dante insisted that she avoid all unnecessary travel. Sienna became her right hand, expertly handling important meetings whenever severe morning sickness made appearances completely impossible. You're supposed to be resting, amore. Dante would often scold gently, finding her meticulously reviewing detailed contracts at 2 a.m. I'm pregnant, Dante, not dying. The doctor said that I'm perfectly healthy. The doctor also specifically said to avoid unnecessary stress. Bella. Running a vast criminal empire is undeniably stressful. Dante. Then stop being part of a vast criminal empire. He'd retort with a playful smile. She'd grin right back at him, knowing that she'd already completely won the argument. He'd kiss her tenderly, muttering softly in rapid-fire Italian about stubborn women. Then he'd sit down and help her carefully review the contracts, because they were always a team in absolutely everything. 7 long months into her pregnancy, on a cold February morning, Raven suddenly went into labor a full 3 weeks early. Dante handled it with his usual calm demeanor, which is to say that he nearly crashed the car while driving her to their private medical facility, shouted aggressively at every doctor who dared to come near her, and then threatened to shoot someone when they told him that he absolutely could not be in the delivery room during the initial prep work. Sir, it's strictly hospital policy. A harried nurse protested nervously. I don't give a damn about your policy, Dante roared back. That's my wife and my child. I'm not leaving her side under any circumstances. Raven, somehow managing to find a bit of humor in the situation even between extremely painful contractions, managed to laugh weakly. Just let him stay, Dante. He's already completely terrifying your entire staff. Just imagine what he'll do if you actually try to kick him out now. They reluctantly let him stay. 14 long hours later, at exactly 6:47 a.m. On February 14th, Valentine's Day of all days, Raven gave birth to a healthy baby daughter. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with her mother's thick, dark hair and her father's intensely piercing eyes. Dante held her close, his hands shaking slightly with emotion. This man, who'd previously killed without hesitation, who'd built a vast empire on blood and fear, was now completely undone by a mere 8 pounds of screaming infant. "She's absolutely perfect," he whispered reverently. "Absolutely and completely perfect. She definitely has your signature scowl," Raven observed wryly, completely exhausted, but incredibly happy. "She also definitely has your indomitable spirit, Dante. Just look at that incredible grip she has." The baby had wrapped her tiny fingers tightly around his thumb and was holding on as if she'd never let go. "Strong, just like her mother," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He named her Sophia Rose Salvatore. Sophia for Dante's beloved mother, and Rose for Raven's. A strong bridge between 2 very different worlds, 2 very different families, and 2 very different legacies. The christening was held at the heavily guarded compound, attended by everyone who truly mattered to them. Lily came from Boston, visibly healthy and thriving. Marco stood proudly as godfather, looking simultaneously proud and undeniably terrified. Sienna was godmother, already spoiling young Sophia with ridiculously expensive designer baby clothes. To Sophia, Dante toasted at the lavish reception. May she possess her mother's unwavering courage, her grandfather's unimpeachable integrity, and absolutely none of her father's decidedly criminal tendencies. Here's definitely hoping, Raven added with a soft laugh, raising her glass of sparkling cider high. But as she watched Dante lovingly cradle their precious daughter, watching the way that all of the hardened criminals surrounding them visibly softened in Sophia's innocent presence, Raven knew one thing with absolute certainty. This incredibly lucky child would grow up knowing that she was deeply loved, fiercely protected, and unconditionally valued. She'd have more opportunities than Raven had ever had herself. Advantages that most people couldn't even dream of possessing. And yes, she'd certainly grow up knowing that her father was undeniably dangerous, that her mother was undeniably deadly, and that their vast empire was built on what were, at times, morally questionable foundations. But she'd also grow up knowing that they'd always fought for something more than just themselves. Fought to make their own small corner of the world a little bit better. Fought tirelessly to protect the vulnerable people who simply couldn't protect themselves. Fought fiercely for family, for true justice, and for unconditional love. That night, with baby Sophia sleeping peacefully in her ornate bassinet beside their large bed, and with Dante's strong arms wrapped protectively around her, Raven thought deeply about the long journey that had ultimately brought her to this exact point in her life. From a rundown dive bar on 5th and Carmine to a luxurious penthouse high above Manhattan. From defiantly kicking out a powerful mafia boss to unexpectedly becoming a powerful mafia queen. From feeling helpless and afraid to feeling powerful and deeply loved. "Thank you," she whispered softly to Dante in the darkness. "For what, amore mio? For simply walking into that dive bar. For being completely impossible to ignore. For always giving me a real choice, and then respecting whatever choice I ultimately made." She turned to face him, her eyes shining brightly in the darkness. "For loving me, Dante, even when I honestly couldn't imagine being loved by anyone." "Bella, you made that easy for me," he said softly. "You're the most lovable, infuriating, and magnificent woman I've ever met in my entire life." He kissed her gently on her forehead. "I should actually be thanking you, Raven. You took a complete monster and somehow made him human again. You gave me a real family, a legacy that goes far beyond senseless violence, and a very compelling reason to actually be a better man. We made each other better, Dante. Yes, we definitely did." He pulled her closer to him. "And we're going to keep making each other better and better, Raven. For Sophia, for us, and for everyone else who is currently counting on us." "No pressure then," she said with a soft laugh. "Immense pressure," he agreed. "But we'll handle it, Mia Regina. We always do." His hand found hers in the darkness, their ornate wedding rings clicking together softly. His and hers, bound together by precious metal, heartfelt vows, and countless difficult choices that had all been made together in safe rooms and dingy warehouses, and finally in a beautiful garden, underneath the stars. Together, she agreed softly. In her nearby bassinet, little Sophia made a small, sleepy sound, not quite awake, but just letting them both know that she was indeed there. Both parents immediately turned their heads toward her, their protective instincts overriding everything else. "She's definitely going to be trouble," Dante predicted with a smile. "Absolutely," Raven agreed with a matching grin. "She's a Salvatore, after all. Double trouble, no doubt. God help us all." But he was smiling, too. That rare, genuine smile that he reserved only for his family. The smile that said that despite absolutely everything, the violence, the constant danger, and the ever-present threat, he'd finally found something truly worth protecting, something truly worth fighting for, and something truly worth living for. True love. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered. The struggling waitress who had once defiantly kicked out a powerful mafia boss had somehow unexpectedly become a powerful mafia queen. And the notorious devil who had claimed her as his own had finally become a loving father. And together, they'd built a truly impressive empire. Dangerous, yes, but also surprisingly just powerful, certainly, but also genuinely protective. Criminal by the strict letter of the law, perhaps, but always deeply moral by their own stringent code of honor. It wasn't exactly a fairy tale ending, but it was significantly better. It was undeniably real.